Chapter 126. In Li Chengfeng's hand, the forging hammer formed by the red light of rage and the green light of will fell one after another, and those URU metals of different shapes gradually merged into one. Then it is constantly compressed and shaped. As the fixed star's energy was continuously injected, the temperature of the URU metal increased and the energy contained within it gradually reached saturation. At this stage, Li Chengfeng immediately stopped beating. Today's URU metal has reached its peak in terms of plasticity. So Li Chengfeng stopped hesitating and directly materialized a mold of a lamp furnace, and then completely shaped the URU alloy. This is actually the simplest step to building an orange light furnace. But what comes next is the real difficulty. The prototype of the lamp furnace is already in place, so the next step is to solve the problem of the lamp beast. Li Chengfeng turned around and said this to Hela. Hela was stunned by this question. Where had she ever seen an orange light beast? But she knew that since Li Chengfeng said this to her, it meant that she needed to do something. How do I solve this? What do you need me to do? It's very simple. After such a long time, you should be able to lock onto the thing called Mammon's blood in your body, right? The greedy orange light in your body was born because of the extreme greed induced by Mammon's blood. Li Chengfeng said as he held Hela's hand. Then he lifted it up. There was a faint orange mark on the arm, shaped like blood sprayed on it. This was the blood of Mammon that splashed onto Hela's arm when Grandet died during the battle in Storybrooke. Use your divine power to wrap the greedy orange light and Mammon's blood in your body, and then, expel them from your body through the blood. It's that simple? Why don't we do this in Midgard? My dear God King, this is the orange light that represents greed. It is almost impossible to expel these tarsal maggots for no reason. Li Chengfeng said, holding up the lamp furnace that had basically taken shape. But now, there is an inexhaustible supply of fixed star energy and URU metal that can accommodate huge energy outside. As long as you use your divine power to isolate the blood of Mammon and the greedy orange light from the energy in your body, they will naturally leave your body and enter the lamp furnace because of their profit-seeking nature. Profit-seeking. When you say that, it's as if the so-called blood of Mammon is no different from a living thing. Hela, you are right. Li Chengfeng nodded. Originally, the blood of Mammon is a part of the dimension Mephisto. Coupled with your strong desires and the divinity of the goddess of death, it can be regarded as an unfinished lamp beast. However, it has not yet truly developed self-awareness and can only rely on the most basic instinctive activities of emotional spectrum creatures. That is to attach itself to the host and influence her with greedy power. In fact, this was also what he thought of after he came into contact with Lex Luthor. Although Lex Luthor was also affected by greed after touching the blood of Mammon, as an ordinary person, he did not have the power to power the blood of Mammon in his body, so there was no environment for the birth of the lamp beast. But Hela is different. In addition to the endless desires accumulated over thousands of years, powerful divinity and divine power are also a major nutrient for the birth of the lamp beast. Although Li Chengfeng was not sure whether the lamp beast born in this way was still a pure spectral energy creature, it didn't matter anymore. Ever since he came into contact with the original Green Lantern, the style of the universe's emotional spectrum has gone completely awry. The green light of will that is too strong, and the red light of rage that will not deprive you of your rationality in anger. It doesn't seem to be a new thing to have another orange light that is very different from the original. After listening to Li Chengfeng's explanation, Hela started to act without any hesitation. She used her terrifying divine power, which had recovered nearly 90% after returning to Asgard, to forcibly wrap up the greedy orange light that constantly stirred up trouble in her desires, moved them all to the position of her arms, and merged them with the blood of Mammon again. Then, with his other hand, he pulled out a night sky sword out of thin air and cut the flesh on his arm. Looking at the wound, Li Chengfeng felt a little distressed, but Hela herself did not react at all, as if the sword did not hit her. After seeing the trace of heartache in Li Chengfeng's eyes, Hela felt a sense of joy rising in her heart. To be honest, this kind of injury is nothing to her. When she was fighting on the battlefield of the Nine Realms, she had suffered injuries more serious than this countless times. Okay, let's get started. Bring the lamp closer. Li Chengfeng nodded, removed the concrete mold, and then held it in front of the wound on Hela's arm. As soon as the distance was shortened, a stream of orange blood, as if alive, immediately appeared in the wound. After poking its head out for a while, the orange blood wanted to jump into the lamp like a newborn animal smelling its mother's milk. But he was still attached to Hela's desire which had accumulated for thousands of years and was unwilling to give it up. Seeing this, Li Chengfeng couldn't help but laugh out loud. It really is worthy of being the semi-finished lamp beast of Orange Lantern. It doesn't want to give up on either side and wants to eat more and take more. Isn't this the most basic expression of greed? It seems, this little guy is still greedy for me. It's okay, give it some strong medicine. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he immediately materialized a syringe. Then he manipulated the syringe to poke into his arm, drew a whole syringe of blood, and then poured it onto the lamp made of URU metal. The scarlet blood spread over the natural runes on the URU metal, immediately igniting it and emitting a faint divine light. Hela stared at Li Chengfeng's blood closely. My queen, I really did not choose the wrong person. How many secrets do you have? Li Chengfeng chuckled. He is no longer the person who just met Hela. In addition to obtaining the pure Dionysus factor, one of the 5 metals, at the beginning, he later transformed into ion and came into contact with the power to manipulate space and time. Finally, after the end of Storybrooke, he obtained the old god status that originally belonged to Sithon. Although there are many types, the divine power contained in them is even greater than that of Hela. Especially Zidhorn's status as an old god, although it did not provide him with any help in terms of power, it allowed him to gain sublimation in terms of rule. Although Li Chengfeng himself is still a human being and has not changed, from the perspective of spectral energy creatures, he is an old god of the earth with a human file size. This is the approval and seal from the entire universe. Sure enough, after Li Chengfeng's blood ignited the runes on the lamp furnace, the semi-finished lamp beast, which was originally hesitating about wanting to have its cake and eat it too, made a choice instantly, completely left Hela's body, and dived into the lamp furnace. Watching it constantly trying to touch his blood in the center of the lamp, Li Chengfeng smiled slightly. The time has come. It's time for the eternal fire to appear. Li Chengfeng opened the pocket space with a smile, but the next moment, his smile froze. Damn it! It seemed like he just took out the eternal fire to grill skewers, and he didn't put it away after using it. But it was just a little embarrassing. Li Chengfeng was thick-skinned enough. So he raised his head without any burden and shouted loudly. Thor! The eternal fire is still above Asgard. Throw it over to me. Thor, who had been watching outside the furnace, heard Li Chengfeng's shout and immediately realized that it was a critical moment. He immediately flew back to Asgard and picked up the eternal fire and the basin from the deck. Then it flew into the furnace and handed it to Li Chengfeng and Hela. He didn't dare to throw it directly. What if the eternal fire breaks? Then he immediately backed out. The forging process of Li Chengfeng and Hela was actually very clear when he watched it from outside the furnace. He didn't need to stare at the surging fixed star energy in the furnace. Brother, do you want to eat melon? After retreating to Loki's side, Loki held up a piece of watermelon and held it in front of him. Hey? Where did the watermelon come from? When working with Li Chengfeng, I always have to prepare some watermelons. Loki took a bite of his watermelon, looking experienced. Who knows when he will do something weird? It would be a waste if I don't eat the watermelon now. That's right. Yeah, this melon is really sweet. They did not hold back on their voices at all, especially Thor's big voice, which sounded like thunder even to Li Chengfeng who was standing on the furnace. After taking a glance at the 2 idol Mao gods, Li Chengfeng didn't bother to care about them. Just take out all the eternal fire in the brazier. The flames that originally filled the huge brazier turned into a flame not much bigger than an egg after it was taken out. This flame is the essence of the eternal fire, and those flames are just some of the energy that escapes. Although it is small in size, its purity is incomparable to any other brazier. So, the eternal fire was something you had planned long ago. Hela teased Li Chengfeng, which was rare. I thought you were just doing it for the barbecue. The eternal fire, also known as the eternal torch, is the source of power for the legendary flame giant Surti. It symbolizes destruction and rebirth. My queen, you know more about the 9 realms than I thought. It stands to reason that a human who has only lived for 25 years and has never left Midgard before should not have seen so much. Oh, my dear Lord of Midgard, I know much more than you think. Li Chengfeng joked with Hela and then sent the eternal fire into the lamp furnace. With the arrival of this energy, it immediately attracted the attention of the semi-finished lamp beast. After hesitating for less than a second, it followed its greedy instinct and pounced on the eternal fire. The next moment, it made a neighing sound that it had never made before. Hiss! Sharp and piercing. But it only lasted a few seconds and then stopped. Li Chengfeng and Hela at the moment, they looked into the lamp furnace again. The eternal fire had completely penetrated into the interior of the semi-finished lamp beast, and under the effect of the eternal fire, its body, which was originally like sticky orange blood, underwent drastic changes. The blood sublimated bit by bit and gradually turned into the purest greedy orange light. From a creature originally made up of a mixture of blood and spectral energy, it completely evolved into a pure spectral energy creature and became a true orange light beast. The shape of the body also began to change. Although it was made up of greedy orange light, every detail was as delicate as that of the ionic shark and the blood slaughter bull. Is this a snake? Hela looked at the completely reborn orange lantern beast and asked uncertainly. Yes, it's a snake. Li Chengfeng nodded. He didn't expect that even the orange lantern beast created by artificial means would be a snake like the lustful python in the original work. But this snake is much more beautiful than the python. The delicate scales reveal a hint of dominance in its beautiful appearance. If the lustful python in the original novel is just a street urchin, then this little orange snake is definitely a fair, rich, and beautiful lady. After all, both Li Chengfeng and Hela could clearly feel that in addition to the power of Mammon and the eternal fire, the body of this little orange light snake also contained Hela's divinity and part of Li Chengfeng's old god status. Although it is an artificially created lamp beast, it is probably not weaker than natural lamp beasts such as the ionic shark and the blood bull. The newly born orange lantern beast, just by stretching, can release a large amount of greedy orange light, which fills the entire lamp furnace made of URU metal in an instant. The natural runes on the URU metal gradually turned into a greedy orange color. After the last rune was completely transformed, a childish voice appeared in Li Chengfeng's ears. Father, Mother. Li Chengfeng was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously looked at Hela, and found that Hela was also looking at him with the same eyes. Same shock. As the two looked at each other in shock, the orange lamp furnace was completely filled with greedy orange light. The original orange lamp furnace is completed. Then, the orange light in the lamp furnace surged, and then spit out an orange lamp ring, but the pattern on it was exactly the same as the rune on the URU metal. Li Chengfeng originally thought that the orange lantern ring would fly directly to Hela. But what was unexpected was that this ancestral orange lantern ring actually hesitated for a long time between the two of them, and finally differentiated into two orange lantern rings, and then came to Li Chengfeng and Hela respectively. Intelligent life has been targeted. Li Chengfeng from Earth. You have insatiable desires. You belong to the orange lantern core. Intelligent life has been targeted. Hela from Asgard. You have insatiable desires. You belong to the orange lantern core. Li Chengfeng and Hela put on the orange light ring that represented desire without hesitation. The two of them held each other's faces at the same time, their greed and possessiveness rising infinitely under the blessing of the orange light. Between the lips and teeth, the two uttered the oath of the orange light. What's mine is mine, it's mine. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. It's not yours. Chapter 127. After the two of them uttered the orange lantern oath, which made people want to complain, no orange uniforms appeared. Instead, orange runes slowly covered their original attire. As the two turned into orange lights, the little snake in the lamp furnace began to get excited. Under the mutual attraction of the two orange lantern rings and the orange lantern furnace, the little snake began to absorb the remaining energy in the fixed star furnace. The little snake opened its mouth and the fixed star energy was sucked into its mouth like a siphon. Beiji, Beiji, father. Mother. I'm still hungry. Li Chengfeng held the lamp in front of him, and the little snake swam around excitedly in the lamp. The cute little baby voice kept ringing in my ears. This name. It's really exciting. Li Chengfeng smiled and looked at Hela, only to see Hela observing the little snake carefully. She calls me mother, and I also feel that I have a blood connection with her, or even a divine connection. Li Chengfeng curled his lips. I thought to myself, what you said is just nonsense. This is not some fledgling complex. Because this little snake swimming in the orange lamp furnace is composed mainly of Mammon's blood and greedy orange light, and then it absorbed the blood, divinity and desires of both of us, truly transforming itself from a flesh and blood creature to a spectral energy creature. If that's the case, this little snake can really be considered their child. After all, when it comes to divinity, there doesn't seem to be much difference between it and genes. Then as a mother, you should give her a name. As Li Chengfeng spoke, he stuffed the orange lamp stove into Hela's hands. After Hela stared at the little snake for a while, she reached out and rubbed the little snake's head with her soft fingertips. Since I have told Odin that I want to be the Lord of Midgard, my child will be a great help in guarding Midgard. After saying that, he looked at Li Chengfeng and continued, I remember that in the Norse mythology of Midgard, there is a giant python that circles Midgard and holds its tail in its mouth. It is called Jemengard. From today on, she is Hela's eldest daughter, the earthly serpent Jemengard. Hela's voice was loud and clear, with a final and unquestionable voice. Li Chengfeng was a little surprised. These were words sworn under divinity, just like signing Mephisto's parchment. It's just that you violated the contract with Mephisto. As long as you can kill this demon, you don't have to comply with the so-called contract. If one breaks the oath sworn by divinity, not only will divinity originally backfire against him, but he will also be rejected and despised by the entire universe. In other words, the so-called God in this universe will really take action to discipline you. But what did the little snake know? She knew her mother was pleased with her and her powers, and gave her a name. From today on, the orange lantern beast is Jemengard, the giant python. Although it doesn't live up to its name, it does sound pretty good. Then Li Chengfeng and Hela walked down the fixed star furnace hand in hand. At this moment, the star ring had stopped running. It was Ai Kui who forced it to stop with a bitter face. Trademark, just now when they were forging this weird lamp and ring, these two guys almost sucked the shit out of their fixed star forge. Looking at the dimmed fixed star, Ai Kui felt like his heart was bleeding. It is not easy to capture such a vibrant fixed star. First of all, you have to be lucky enough, and secondly, we need a level godfather to help. For example, the fixed star forge in front of us was actually built with the help of Odin after the forging star Nidav was conquered. Do they have to trouble the king of God to make a trip for them and find a way to capture another fixed star to provide energy for the forge? Even if Odin is willing, they, the dwarfs, can't bring themselves to do it now. Anyway, the 9 realms have been at peace recently, and except for the arrival of Hela and Li Chengfeng this time, the fixed star forge is really not needed. This time, Thor and Loki witnessed the entire process of making the orange lantern furnace. They could not be said to be stunned, but they were shocked. Starting from shaping the orange lantern stove, every step seemed almost like a fantasy in the eyes of the two. Especially the flesh and blood creature in its semi-finished state, which was sublimated into another life form at the moment when the eternal fire ignited the lamp furnace, and also gave birth to true independent consciousness. This was really beyond their understanding. But at the end of the day, they are both Asgard gods, so they are strong enough to accept the ability. So when Li Chengfeng and Hela walked towards them, they both lay down beside the orange lamp to see the child of their eldest sister and Li Chengfeng. Hiss, this little snake is pretty cute. This was the thought of the Asgard golden retriever. It's indeed beautiful, but why is it named Jemengard? Why do I have a feeling that a creature with this name must be very close to me? Well, it must be an illusion. This is the voice of the Asgard husky. Okay, you two, stop standing around here and watching. There will be plenty of time to watch it later, but right now your sister and I have something to do back in Asgard. Li Chengfeng pushed Asgard's big golden retriever and husky forward, urging them to quickly board the Asgard territory. Now that the orange lantern furnace has been built, it would be inappropriate to stay on the forge star Nidav. After all, they didn't have a very good personal relationship with the dwarfs, so there was no need to continue with the awkward small talk, and most importantly, Jemengard has swallowed so much fixed star energy. If we don't run away now, will we have to wait for others to react and then demand compensation? So Li Chengfeng just nodded to the dwarf king Ai Kui, and took the 3 Asgard siblings to the Asgard domain. Start the spaceship, connect to Bifrost, and go. The domain of Asgard flashed on the spot, then disappeared and entered the superluminal space of Bifrost. Ai Kui looked in the direction where the Asgard domain disappeared with a face full of grief and anger. Damn it! If he wasn't afraid of being killed by Hela, he would have to talk to these Asgard gods today. But as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he immediately shuddered and slapped himself hard. Crazy! Crazy! After living in peace for too long, I almost dared to bargain with those killers in Asgard. Atri had witnessed how Hela and Odin drowned world after world in blood and tears. Okay, follow my orders. All dwarf members with extra time should go find a way to replenish the energy for the fixed star forge. After giving the order, Ai Kui suddenly thought of something. The Midgard god named Li Chengfeng also possessed red and green rings and energies before creating this orange lamp. In addition to the orange this time, there will be yellow, cyan, blue and purple in the future, right? Doesn't that mean that their fixed star forge will have to continue to be destroyed? Originally, the speed in Asgard was a bit outrageous, and it used the Bifrost hyperspace highway, so it only took a short time to get there. At the moment the return journey was naturally fast enough. Even Heimdall, who was in charge of controlling Bifrost, was a little confused. Back then, the king of God Odin went to the forge star Nidav and commissioned the dwarfs to forge Mjolnir with Uru metal. It took 3 days and 3 nights to complete. But for a divine artifact, 3 days and 3 nights is already very fast. Heimdall looked at Li Chengfeng, who had docked the Asgard domain next to the Airbus, and said, "But I didn't expect that you would come back so soon. After all, in terms of difficulty of crafting, the Orange Lantern Furnace is far inferior to Mjolnir." Li Chengfeng still has a very good impression of Heimdall, the god of dawn and gatekeeper who controls Bifrost. It's really so upright. But although Hela's attitude towards this person would not be as confrontational as when she first arrived in Asgard, it was definitely not very good either. "Hey, Li Chengfeng, have you forgotten that we have something else to do? How can we have time to chat with the gatekeeper here?" Hela turned around somewhat indifferently and shouted to Li Chengfeng. The Yemen guard wrapped around her shoulders also looked over curiously. Li Chengfeng immediately nodded to Heimdall and quickly caught up with the 3 Asgard siblings. Hela didn't even call him the Queen of Gods just now, but called him by his full name. "I didn't make any mistakes?" With this question in mind, Hela took her 2 younger brothers and Li Chengfeng into Asgard again. After many twists and turns, they arrived at the treasure house of Asgard. The guard was very observant. Seeing that Hela had the key and was with 2 princes, he immediately let her in respectfully. The group, led by Hela, did not stop in front of some treasure. Instead, he walked to the deepest part, a corner that did not display any treasures but appeared inexplicably. Hela stretched out her hand, used the night sky sword as a handle, and then materialized huge amounts of maces on it with greedy orange light. With a clang, the mace hit the floor of Odin's treasure house. It fell apart in an instant. Then after several consecutive hits, a huge amount of holes appeared on the floor. It was deep and dark, and a desolate atmosphere emanated from the bottom to the top. Hela turned around, smiled at her 2 younger brothers, and asked, "Do you want to see the real power?" After saying that, he grabbed Li Chengfeng's hand, leaned back, and jumped into the hole in a backwards posture. Thor and Loki don't know if their eldest sister has been infected by Li Chengfeng. Why is it that no one can understand her when she speaks? The Riddler's illness can be contagious through the exchange of body fluids and communication with the divine, right? Will you jump? Nonsense, definitely jump. Oh, all right. Loki nodded and suddenly pushed Thor further into the hole. Looking at Thor giving him the middle finger when he fell, Loki fiddled with his hair nonchalantly and jumped down coolly. Ha! Perfect superhero landing. When Loki fell to the bottom of the cave, he saw that Thor had adjusted his body balance in midair and landed steadily on one knee with his fist against the ground. Even though Thor didn't stay on Earth for a long time, he did learn the superhero's signature moves. "Loki! If you sneak attack me again next time, I will definitely pin you to the ground and beat you." Thor stared at his brother, and although he said threatening words, there was no anger in his eyes. After all, if it were in the past, Loki would not have pushed Thor down, but would have stabbed Thor in the back with a dagger. In Thor's eyes, Loki treats him much kinder than before. "Shh! Shut up, you big fool!" Loki ignored Thor's little threat. Instead, after looking around, he frowned and told Thor to shut up. Seeing that his cynical brother had such a serious expression, Thor calmed down and looked around. This is a mausoleum. A circular mass mausoleum with huge amounts of runes in the center, symbolizing death. The remains of countless soldiers wearing Asgard armor are displayed here. In the middle of the remains of the Asgard soldiers were the remains of a giant beast. It looked like a huge canine. Even though it was already a corpse, its sharp fangs still looked terrifying. Li Chengfeng and Hela were standing beside the giant beast at this moment. Hela reached out and gently stroked the beast's head. "My dear Fenris, how long have you been here? It must have been very lonely." Li Chengfeng stood beside her without saying a word. Hela's eyes were filled with nostalgia for the past. Once upon a time, she was a high-spirited goddess of death. She worshipped her powerful father and led the army to expand the territory of Asgard. But now, after 2,000 years of being sealed, except for a handful of people in the entire Asgard, no one even recognizes herself, the eldest daughter of Odin, the former commander and crown prince. As for those who knew him, they either died on the battlefield like these Asgard soldiers, or died at his hands like the Valkyrie who were ordered to attack him. When she killed Valkyrie, she was actually devastated inside. He was once the most loyal soldier under her command, and the sister with whom she would die together, but now they were fighting to the death. Was I really wrong at the beginning? Hela turned her head and looked at Li Chengfeng. My dear, there is no inherent right or wrong in everything in this world. You are not wrong, Odin is not wrong, Fenris and Valkyrie are not wrong either. They just have different standpoints. Li Chengfeng held Hela's hand. What happened in Asgard back then was a huge amounts of mess. Odin is indeed in a dilemma. If he continues to fight, the entire Asgard might be wiped out by the gods in one click, ushering in Ragnarok ahead of schedule. But to stop the war and conquest, one can only sacrifice the eldest daughter, the biggest advocate of war. Between Asgard and his daughter, Odin chose Asgard. After all, he is the king of God first and a father second. Definitely, I'm not asking you to forgive your father. Li Chengfeng shrugged and continued, but let's solve these family matters later. You are right. Hela nodded, and walked hand in hand with Li Chengfeng to the rune. Then he rubbed Yemengard's head, opened his little mouth, and the eternal fire flew out. Hela raised her hand to catch it, and pressed the eternal fire down on the rune at her feet. Then, driven by the power of the goddess of death and the greedy orange light, the eternal fire shattered and spread into huge amounts of fire rings, sweeping up all the remains. With the eternal flame, you are reborn at this moment. Chapter 128. The fire ring formed by the eternal flame did not cause any damage, but the remains within the range of the fire ring immediately lit up with orange light. Under the influence of the greedy orange light and the eternal fire, the remains of the Asgard army gathered again and sat up in unison. FK. How come they're all alive? Thor exclaimed, he had never seen such a scene before. Over the years, before he met Li Chengfeng, he was the type who only cared about rushing forward on the battlefield. He didn't pay much attention to the corpses everywhere, let alone seeing so many ghosts who came back to life. And why is it orange? I clearly remember that the necromancy that allowed the decedent to temporarily crawl out of the grave should be green after being activated. Loki was more rational. After a brief pause, he began to analyze. But before either of them could get an answer, they heard a long wolf howl coming from behind them. The two turned around and found that like all the Asgard soldiers, the huge amounts of canine had also stood up. With the help of the greedy orange light, Fenris, who was originally only a tall skeleton, filled the missing body tissues due to decay. At this moment, he turned into the giant wolf that was capable of devouring everything in the impression. However, unlike the rest of the Asgard army, the souls of the soldiers in this Asgard army had long since dissipated, and they were now completely controlled by the energy bestowed by the eternal fire and the greedy orange light. After all, Fenris is a god of Asgard, so his soul did not dissipate, but was preserved in his body. In endless loneliness, he waits for his master, the goddess of death Hela. And there are always people who ruin the atmosphere at times like this. All right, all Asgard troops, follow my command and line up in columns. Li Chengfeng shouted at the top of his voice, and then all the Asgard soldiers in front of him quickly gathered together. Then he looked at Hela and asked her to hold up the lantern. Raise them. That's right. Now these Asgard armies, pulled up by the eternal fire and the greedy orange light, have truly become your power again. Although she was wearing the original orange lantern ring, Hela's understanding of the ring was still too superficial. She thought it was no different from the green and red lights, and that it was nothing more than relying on the power of the orange spectrum to attack and kill. But after Li Chengfeng gave orders to the remains that stood up, Hela began to accept the knowledge brought by the greedy orange light and the orange lantern ring. In the original work, the power of the orange lantern is to transform the enemies killed by the orange lantern into one orange lantern ghost after another for the wearer to control. Orange lantern ghosts often retain all the powers they had in life. The orange lantern, the ancestor of this universe, was created by Li Chengfeng. The nature of its power had long been changed under the combined effects of URU metal, fixed star power, Mammon's blood, and the eternal fire. It turns out that these subordinates who originally followed her to conquer the 9 realms are now her Orange Lantern Ghost Army. Now they can exist in physical form or in the Orange Lantern Furnace in the form of Orange Lantern Ghosts. But Fenris doesn't seem to be able to do that. As the Asgard army formed a column, they walked towards Hela with their heads held high. Then, as he walked, his body gradually turned into pure greedy orange light and entered the orange light furnace in front of him. Soon, only Li Chengfeng and the 3 Asgard siblings were left in the mausoleum that had just been resurrected by the eternal fire. And the giant wolf Fenris, who was squatting on the ground and rolling around begging for petting. He can't transform into an orange light ghost. No matter how he guided it, the dog in front of him could not transform into a pure energy creature like the Asgard army and station in the orange lamp furnace. Li Chengfeng studied for a long time and finally came to the conclusion. Since Fenris's soul had not yet left, when the eternal fire and the greedy orange light worked together to repair his body, the soul returned to his long-lost body. So for the big dog in front of him, in a sense, he has actually been resurrected. A true resurrection. Li Chengfeng originally felt it was a pity that this big dog that could fight with Hulk could not transform into Orange Lantern Ghost, which was a big loss to Orange Lantern's combat power. But when Li Chengfeng saw the love and admiration in Fenris's eyes when he looked at Hela as if he were a child looking at his parents, he suddenly felt that the Orange Lantern Ghost would not make much difference if he was not there. And under the influence of the eternal fire, Fenris the Great's body even regained vitality. Fenris, sit down. Ouch. Fenris, turn around. Oh. Fenris, backflip. Damn, you're really good at it. Li Chengfeng was standing in the Garden of Asgard at this moment, directing Fenris to perform various actions. After he and the 3 Asgard siblings came out of Odin's treasure house, the 3 siblings were summoned by Odin. It just so happened that Hela also had to tell Odin that she had raised all the deceased warriors of Asgard and turned them into energy creatures. Since they only invited their 3 children, Li Chengfeng, an idle man, naturally would not join in the fun. So under the guidance of the Asgard gods, Li Chengfeng came to the Garden of Asgard. When he went to the Forge Star Nidavi to build the Orange Lantern Furnace, the Star Squad and 2 high school students, Peter Parker and Jessica Jones, stayed here and served him delicious food and drinks. Li Chengfeng brought Fenris to join them. That's right, Fenris not only followed Li Chengfeng, but also performed all kinds of actions perfectly under Li Chengfeng's command. Logically, Fenris should only obey Hela. But after he was resurrected by the eternal fire and the greedy orange light, Fenris naturally felt a sense of closeness to Li Chengfeng, a complete stranger to him, except for Hela. Li Chengfeng thought about it and thought it was probably because of the Orange Lantern Ring. Although Hela and his Orange Lantern Ring appear to be 2, they are actually one ancestral ring split into 2 and are essentially the same ring. The power and authority of the Orange Lantern Rings that both of them can mobilize are the same. So in Fenris's eyes, Li Chengfeng is simply another Hela. So he learned to sit down, spin around, and do backflips. He was good at everything. Fenris's performance successfully drew the attention of the Star Squad and the 2 naughty kids to him. What a big dog! The first person to live in Bungbu was Harley Quinn, who was dissecting flowers to observe the differences between alien plants and Earth plants. Although she didn't know anything about botany, she just wanted to take a look. The appearance of Fenris immediately diverted her attention away from the alien plants. Well, Mr. Harley, although I am a high school student, I'm afraid this is a huge amount of wolf, right? When Jessica Jones spoke to Harley Quinn, she didn't have the same aggressive attitude as when she spoke to Li Chengfeng. Instead, she was a little cautious. Even this troublemaker treated Harley Quinn like this, which showed that Harley had indeed established some kind of authority while serving in the new FBI Academy. Ah! A wolf! Harley Quinn's interest immediately dropped after hearing this. After all the fuss, it's not a dog. I was thinking of giving him the little flowery pink dress. Oh, I guess he can't wear it. The child is a little too big. Little Flower refers to the hyena she kept in the ward of Arkham Asylum. It was originally sent in by Bruce Wayne, and after she was discharged from the hospital, she forgot about the hound. Now it is estimated that Bruce Wayne has released it back to its original habitat. Li Chengfeng was already accustomed to Harley Quinn's enthusiasm, which was not even 3 minutes long, so he made a gesture and Fenris lay down on the ground obediently, looking at these Midgard people from behind Li Chengfeng. The moment he saw Hulk, the whole wolf froze. This is Beast's susceptive perception of danger. Hulk also stared at Fenris, with a hint of fighting spirit in his eyes. A wolf this big must be very good at fighting, right? However, Li Chengfeng saw through Hulk's thoughts at a glance, and just a look from him made Hulk stop. Hulk, we are in Hela's house now, remember what I told you? No, Hulk can't cause damage in a friend's house. Very good, you must remember this. Li Chengfeng curled his lips, Fenris will return to Earth with us when the time comes. By then, I won't bother to care about you even if you fight Fenris 800 times a day. Hulk nodded hastily. Hulk always trusts Li Chengfeng 100%. First of all, Li Chengfeng is better at fighting than Hulk. Secondly, Li Chengfeng fed Hulk. And Hulk isn't the only one who thinks so. All the Hulk personalities in his mind, including the main personality Bruce Banner, have extremely high trust in Li Chengfeng. To be honest, there are very few people who can understand Hulk and Bruce Banner. Even among the teammates of the Star Team and the Phil Coulson team stationed in the same base, only Li Chengfeng can do this. Hella's problem has been solved. After the three of them talk with their father, we can probably prepare to return to Earth. Ah! So fast! Li Chengfeng looked at the guy who said this, and it turned out to be the naughty kid Peter Parker. What else? Do you think we came to Asgard for tourism? Li Chengfeng rolled his eyes. Although for you, this period of time is no different from traveling, but Hella and I have been really busy. Ahem, that's true. Even Peter Parker couldn't say much. After all, they did spend half a day in this gorgeous and comfortable garden. Although there are not many entertainment activities, this rare peace and comfort cannot be bought with any amount of money. Especially for them, the FBI agents. But since Li Chengfeng has already told them to prepare to return, then they just need to be prepared. But they didn't expect that they were brought here originally to prevent a conflict with Asgard, and that Li Chengfeng and Hela alone would not be able to escape safely. Unexpectedly, their trip turned from preparation for a tough battle into a funded tour. Even as an FBI agent, no one longs for fighting and war. But a flash of alert suddenly crossed my mind. Li Chengfeng frowned. It was Wolverine's beast instinct that took effect. There is danger. And when he looked in that direction with the help of his beast intuition, another person also looked in the same direction. It's Peter Parker. Peter, you felt it too, didn't you? Agent Lee, how did you know that? Nonsense. As students of the FBI Academy, if we don't even know your abilities, how can we teach you? That's right. My spider telepathy tells me that there's a dangerous aura coming from that direction. Peter Parker pointed in the direction of Odin's residence. After Odin sent his servants to invite them, Hela and her two brothers went to Odin's residence. Halfway through the journey, Thor asked Hela a question. Eldest sister, are we going to return to Earth immediately? I don't think it's necessary for me to stay in Asgard for long. After all, I am the Lord of Midgard now. Hela didn't look back, but just walked forward. As for you two, you have to fulfill the contract you signed, right? That's true. The Asgard Golden Retriever nodded in agreement. Hey, doesn't anyone care about my feelings? Loki pointed at himself, although I also think it's better to go back to Earth as soon as possible, but you should at least ask me, right? Snort. Hearing the cold snorts from his elder sister and brother in unison, Loki's heart sank. As expected, as an adopted son, he will be ostracized by his biological children. As Loki thought this, he chose to ignore the pit he had dug for Thor over the years. Soon, they walked through the luxurious and long corridor and arrived at Odin's residence. Seeing that Thor had no intention of coming forward, Loki hurried over. Father, we're here. After saying that, he glanced at Thor. This Asgard Golden Retriever is so tactless. Are you still waiting for your eldest sister and father to speak first? Although Hela and Odin have basically reconciled on the surface, Hela still holds a grudge in her heart, especially because Odin deliberately erased all traces of her existence and because of Fenris' death. No matter how slow Thor was, he finally reacted and looked at Hela apologetically. Soon, the door of the residence opened. The three siblings walked in, but found that the house was unusually dark. Father, are you there? We are here. Thor didn't think anything of it and walked forward calmly. I walked all the way to Odin's bed, but I didn't see Odin, but it seemed like there was someone lying on the bed. Thor also felt something was wrong at this time and walked forward quickly. Father, what's wrong with you? As he said this, he reached out for the luxurious blanket. The next moment, a sharp dagger pierced through the blanket and came towards Thor's face. In a flash, Thor's monstrous combat ability allowed him to dodge the dagger attack like a conditioned reflex in an instant. And at the moment he dodged, a night sky sword nailed the assassin and the blanket to the bed. Loki walked quickly forward and pulled back the blanket. wearing black armor, with pale skin. A dark elf from Jotunheim. Chapter 129. Dark Elves, a race that has existed for an extremely long time. Even earlier than the Asgard people who conquered the 9 realms. When there was little life left in the entire universe, Dark Elves had already appeared in the depths of the Golden Galleon Abyss. According to legend, the Dark Elves were born in the initial darkness of the universe. Jotunheim is the planet ruled by the Dark Elves. Its appearance is yellow and dull, and the surface is the same color as the planet, desolate and withered, with dark clouds and rocks everywhere. It doesn't look like it can allow any living thing to survive. In fact, it is impossible to survive. So the Dark Elves lived underground in Jotunheim, which resulted in their pale appearance, deep eye sockets and blue eyes. The Dark Elves of Jotunheim once built an advanced and powerful civilization underground, but as resources became depleted, the social order of the Dark Elves gradually collapsed, and they gradually became a bandit civilization that made a living by plundering other civilizations. As a bandit civilization, the Dark Elves were once very powerful, and were ready to use the Dark Elves' most precious treasure, ether, to seize all resources and destroy the entire 9 realms. However, they were completely defeated by the Asgard at that time, and even the ether was seized. It was then sealed in a secret corner of the 9 realms by Bor, the then ruler of Asgard. This place is Midgard, which was discovered by the American military thousands of years later, eventually triggering the fairy tale town incident. And now, the Dark Elves have made a comeback, and their main goal is to take revenge on Asgard. The branches of the world tree will undergo an integrate phenomenon every 5,000 years. Over a period of time, the dimensional boundaries of the entire 9 realms will become thinner, causing various extra-dimensional anomalies to occur randomly in the 9 realms. These include things like gravity changes, space compression, and the tearing of the real world. The Dark Elves use these extra-dimensional anomalies to invade the 9 realms. It has been exactly 5,000 years since the last 9 realms integration phenomenon. So at the first moment, the Dark Elves divided their troops into several groups. The 2 groups with the largest forces, one group sneaked into Asgard to invade and destroy, while the other group went to Earth to find the long-lost ether of the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves who invaded Asgard successfully sneaked into every corner of Asgard with their innate dark magic ability and advanced stealth technology. This is how the Dark Elves hiding in Odin's residence sneaked in. Definitely, they are not so arrogant as to be a Dark Elf and dare to assassinate Odin. So at the moment when Hela nailed the Dark Elf assassin to the bed, a dozen Dark Elf assassins immediately appeared in the surrounding space and attacked the 3 Asgard siblings. Weren't the Dark Elves defeated? Why are they making a comeback again? Loki cast a spell with each of his hands, imprisoning the 2 Dark Elf assassins, then held the 2 beloved little daggers in his hands and stabbed them into the body of the Dark Elf that attacked him from behind. Even with the technology of the Dark Elves, they normally can't sneak into Asgard silently, but Hela turned on the orange light to transform again, and several orange light ghosts instantly blocked the way of the Dark Elves. Calculating the time, it should be the beginning of a new integration phenomenon of the 9 realms. At this time, the dimensional and spatial barriers are extremely weak and unstable. The Dark Elves are able to invade Asgard through these weak points. At the same time, several night sky swords engraved with orange runes materialized around him, flew out, and easily beheaded the enemy. The point is, where is Father? Thor held Mjolnir in his hand and knocked a Dark Elf assassin out of Odin's residence. Father has been falling into the Odin sleep from time to time in the past few hundred years. If he happened to be encountered by the Dark Elves at this moment, damn it. Hela frowned slightly when she heard what Thor said. The power of Odin will increase with age, but the body will become weaker and weaker as it enters old age. The body gradually cannot bear its own divine power, so it will use Odin's sleep to stabilize and restore the power of Odin and prolong life. This is a relatively fragile time. If he were discovered by the Dark Elf assassin after entering Odin's sleep, he would be in great danger. When Hela thought of this, a flash of enlightenment flashed through her mind. It turns out that deep down in her heart, she doesn't want Odin to die. At least he shouldn't die at the hands of the Dark Elves and other such insignificant creatures. The battle in Odin's abode began suddenly and ended just as quickly. After all, if the 3 siblings were placed among the gods of Asgard, they could be called the ultimate force. There were only a dozen Dark Elf assassins. Even if they were attacked by surprise, they would be instantly refined. When the 3 siblings walked out the door, a dozen orange light ghosts in the shape of Dark Elves appeared behind Hela. The moment the door opened, they saw the star team, led by Li Chengfeng, surrounding the Asgard priest who had just led the way for them. Hey, did you guys resolve the fight? Li Chengfeng put his hand on the god's shoulder, pretending to be a good brother. Peter Parker and I both sensed the danger, and when we rushed over, the god stopped us outside, saying that Odin wanted to talk to you alone. After saying that, Li Chengfeng glanced at the orange lantern ghost behind Hela that was gradually dissipating and returning to the orange lantern ring, and smiled at this divine servant. Is this what you meant by Odin wanting to talk alone? No, no. The god servant's face, which was originally filled with fear, suddenly changed. His eyes turned bloodshot and he shouted heartbreakingly, all this is for Lorelei. Then he took out a dagger from his arms, the same one as the dark elf assassins, and stabbed it towards Li Chengfeng's heart. Go to hell. Li Chengfeng looked at the crazy Asgard god servant speechlessly and couldn't help laughing out loud. It can be seen that this guy's mind is completely confused. He sighed, then reached out and grasped the blade with just 2 fingers. With a little force, the blade was broken off. Come and knock anyone out. Li Chengfeng pushed away the confused divine servant. Although he had tens of thousands of ways to kill this divine servant, it was after all his first meeting with his father-in-law, and it could be regarded as the honeymoon period between Earth and Asgard. What's more, this divine servant was obviously controlled by someone. After seeing Jessica Jones kick the divine servant against the wall and make him faint, Li Chengfeng turned to look at Hela. What happened? The situation is quite complicated, and I can't explain it in just a few words. Hela shook her head. To put it simply, the integration of the 9 realms has reappeared, the dark elves have invaded Asgard, and my father, Odin, has disappeared. Isn't this quite clear? Li Chengfeng shrugged, but then fell into a brief thought. 9 realms integration? Isn't that the plot of Thor 2? Li Chengfeng knew this. It happens once every 5,000 years. Could it be such a coincidence that it has been exactly 5,000 years since the last time? However, invading Asgard and other planets in the 9 realms as soon as possible is indeed in line with Nicki Minaj. Malkitha's character. How could a man who could be called the most despicable and evil among the dark elves, with a heart smaller than a needle tip, not seek revenge? If the 9 realms integrate again, then the dark elves may not only invade Asgard, but there is a great possibility that they will invade the Earth. Earth? You mean? That's right. The dark elves regard the ether as a treasure. 5,000 years ago, it was seized by your Asgard god and hidden in Midgard. Now they will definitely take the opportunity to get it back. Li Chengfeng smiled, definitely they don't know that the ether has been contained by me. But I still have to notify Nick Fury and let him lead people to prepare for defense. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he opened a portal. When he turned it on, he felt much more relaxed than before. Is it so obvious that the 9 realms integration phenomenon thins the dimensional barriers? Walking out of the portal, he came directly in front of Nick Fury. Fury, let me make it short. There are some strange phenomena happening in the universe right now. Every corner of the Earth may experience gravity anomalies and abnormalities in real space. Immediately notify the FBI in all countries to take preventive measures and evacuate and comfort the people. As Li Chengfeng spoke, he sat down next to Nick Fury's bathtub, picked up a glass of iced martini from the small table above the bathtub, and drank it all in one gulp. Also, there may be a group of space bandits called Dark Elves who may come to Earth to look for the whereabouts of the ether. Pay attention to deploying key defenses in Fairy Tale Town and the place where the ether was temporarily stored. The Dark Elves must have a way to detect the aura of the ether. Nick Fury didn't even wear a blindfold at the moment. He was half lying in the bathtub with his naked butt, staring blankly at Li Chengfeng, who drank up the good wine he was going to enjoy later. Note that the enemy this time is from a cosmic civilization. Ordinary field agents are no match for them. Send out the X-Men and the guys from the FBI Academy. You actually bought a music massage bathtub? You really know how to enjoy yourself, don't you? Don't forget to send a few to our base after this is over. One of them must be specially made and enlarged, otherwise the Hulk won't be able to sit in it. After saying that, he raised his thumbs up to Nick Fury and showed a sunny smile. Then a portal suddenly appeared and enveloped Li Chengfeng. The whole process took a maximum of 1 minute. Nick Fury looked at the place where Li Chengfeng disappeared, then looked at the wine glass with only ice cubes left. Suddenly, a tear flashed in his one eye. FK. I just got off work. After Li Chengfeng gave instructions to Nick Fury, he returned to Asgard again. There will definitely be no problem on Earth. After all, Nick Fury is not a fool. When he has enough powerful people at his disposal, he can easily deal with the attack of an alien force. The focus of the Star Team can be placed on Asgard. After all, Asgard will be one of Earth's strongest allies in the future, so the problem definitely needs to be properly resolved. The Lorelei that the priest just mentioned should be from your Asgard, right? Li Chengfeng looked at Thor on the side. Lorelei, the sea siren, and her sister, the enchantress, I have heard of their names for a long time. You know it very well. Thor nodded. Lorelei and Enchantress are both serious criminals imprisoned by Odin himself. Both sisters can use voice and body contact to make men submit to them and fall madly in love with them. In addition to this ability, Sister Lorelei is a powerful warrior, and Sister Enchantress, as the name suggests, is one of the best witches in Asgard. Thor's frown deepened. But over the years, the detention of these two sisters has been very careful, and there has never been any mistakes. Needless to say, the Dark Elves must have gone to the dungeon to release the prisoners after the invasion to disrupt Asgard's security so that they could fish in troubled waters. Loki snorted coldly, I stopped playing this kind of trick more than 700 years ago. After Loki finished speaking, he waved his hands repeatedly, and a magic with a wide range covered everyone present. I have cast a mental spell on you to isolate the Lorelei sisters' enchanting power. It will take effect within 3 hours. How do you know this works? Li Chengfeng did not question Loki's ability. After all, he was known as the #1 magician in the 9 realms. He was really just curious, because from what he knew about the comics and movie plots, Loki didn't seem to have much interaction with these two sisters. Finally, there is something you don't know. Loki's handsome face showed a genuine smile. Why do I know this works? Because practice makes perfect. It was because I brought the two sisters to justice that my father gave me the name God of Trickery. Li Chengfeng looked at Loki with a proud face, and tried to hold back, but finally couldn't hold back. He walked up to Loki and stroked his head, just like he would stroke a husky's head, and then said, That's really awesome. Our Loki is worthy of being the god of trickery of Asgard and the backbone of the FBI. You will definitely be promoted faster than Thor. Humph. Brother, Thor. Follow me. The Lorelei sisters are left to the two of us. After hearing what Li Chengfeng said, Loki snorted coldly, then dragged the somewhat confused Thor to look for the traces of the Lorelei sisters. When Li Chengfeng was still looking at Loki's back with the look of an old father who thought the child has finally grown up, Hela walked to his side. My queen, please don't always tease Loki with your words. This is just a little hobby of mine, and it also shows you Asgard what a truly effective family education looks like. Li Chengfeng held Hela's hand. He is my brother-in-law after all. Snort. Hela hummed, but her voice was more of satisfaction and pleasure. But for some reason, 2 identical cold snorts seemed to be heard faintly from behind Li Chengfeng. This must be my illusion. Li Chengfeng comforted himself in this way. At this time, he raised his head and looked into the air. The phenomenon of spatial disorder became more and more obvious in the air above Asgard. The 9-realm integration phenomenon has officially begun. Chapter 130. After watching Loki and Thor complete their side quests, Li Chengfeng led the rest of Team Star to conduct a detailed investigation of Asgard. The most important thing now is to find Odin. Otherwise, if Odin really capsizes in the gutter, he will become a joke. Along the way, Li Chengfeng couldn't help but sigh that although the Dark Elves were a deformed and a bit abnormal race, their powerful technology was really tempting. Especially the stealth technology. Even if Li Chengfeng maintains the transformation into a lantern man, he must be within 1 meter of the other party before he can feel the other party's presence through the power of the emotional spectrum. They can even hide some of the energy of the emotional spectrum. I can only say that they are worthy of being a veteran powerful race in the universe. Apart from anything else, at least in terms of technology and combat level, the Kree Empire and the Skrulls can hardly catch up. After clearing out a large number of Dark Elves along the way, Li Chengfeng soon led the others from Odin's residence to Frigga's bedroom. But when they got closer, they found that the entire bedroom was completely frozen. Li Chengfeng walked forward and gently tapped the huge and thick ice with his hand. It is definitely not a natural product, but a magical product. But the question is, apart from Loki, are there any other magicians in Asgard who are good at ice magic? The answer is no. Since it was not left by an ally, it means it was the work of the enemy. Could it be that? Li Chengfeng frowned and thought of a possibility. Then he turned around and pointed at the tall and magnificent gate behind the ice. "Come on, Hulk, clear the way." Hulk nodded excitedly. The battle with the dark elves along the way had completely ignited the angry Gamma Giant. He raised his palm and then thrust it hard into the ice. The seemingly solid magic ice was like butter meeting a hot knife. "Hulk! Dig!" Hulk excitedly moved his hands and soon dug a passage large enough for everyone to pass through. This scene made Fenris, who had been following Li Chengfeng and Hela, look a little envious. "He wants to dig a hole too." Li Chengfeng patted Fenris on the head to comfort him. Then everyone followed the passage into the bedroom of the Queen of Asgard. "If I still choose to overthrow Odin's rule, then this palace should belong to you now. FK, please don't do that." Li Chengfeng looked at the magnificent gate in front of him, his face twitching. "Asgard has no internet or Wi-Fi, do you want me to die of boredom here?" When Hela saw Li Chengfeng's refusal without hesitation and the obvious displeasure on his face, she knew that Li Chengfeng really didn't want to stay in Asgard. In fact, isn't she the same? If she didn't want to put the past to rest, she actually had no interest in returning to Asgard. More importantly, it is the power inherited from her biological mother, and she must return to Asgard to gain full power. But ever since she told Odin that she wanted to become the king of Midgard and Odin agreed, she felt that the power representing the primordial earth not only existed in Asgard, but began to spread to Midgard. This is the power of the Father of God. Although after obtaining the Orange Lantern Ring, Hela's peak power should have surpassed Odin. But divinity and authority have nothing to do with power. This involves the level of cosmic rules. Just a promise containing the power of Odin can gain the recognition of the universe. So now Hela is still the goddess of death, but she is no longer just the goddess of death of Asgard, but also the new god king of Midgard. That's true. Without the internet and social media, I would be very bored too. Hela expressed the same view as Li Chengfeng. At the same time, dozens of night sky swords appeared around her, flew out, and nailed around the gate of the bedroom. Then Hela manipulated the night sky sword and tore down the entire gate along with the surrounding walls. Suddenly everything became clear. The moment the gate fell, Li Chengfeng immediately saw several blue-skinned giants who looked confused about the current situation. If he hadn't admitted his mistake. Is this giants of Jotunheim? It turned out to be just as he had guessed. The giants of Jotunheim are mixing with the dark elves. Are you planning to break the peace treaty with Asgard? As he spoke, Li Chengfeng stepped forward, looked at the burly giants of Jotunheim, and said, "No, since you have already appeared here, it is equivalent to tearing up the peace treaty. People of Midgard, do not interfere in the affairs of the giants of Jotunheim." After a brief moment of surprise, several giants of Jotunheim immediately took a fighting stance. Asgard's defeat is a foregone conclusion. After Odin fell into the Odin sleep, Asgard will never be able to resist the attack of the giants of Jotunheim and the Dark Elves. These giants of Jotunheim are clearly young, energetic, and strong. But they have a fatal flaw. That means he doesn't recognize Hela in front of him, nor does he recognize Hela's father. Based on the information they revealed, Li Chengfeng could be sure that Odin was probably in Frigga's bedroom at this moment. So, let's get started. Buzz. There was a slight vibration in the air, and two red heat rays burst out and pierced directly through the head of the giants of Jotunheim who was speaking. In an instant, the entire space was filled with the aroma of roasted brain. Bang! The fall of the giants of Jotunheim did not make them retreat, but instead they rushed towards Li Chengfeng. Acting together were a dozen or so dark elves that appeared nearby. Go ahead, there's no need to leave anyone alive. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he and Hela swept the enemies in front of them to the walls on both sides and went straight into the depths of Frigga's bedroom. The reason why Li Chengfeng brought the star team here was originally just to let them see the world, but he didn't expect that they would actually come in handy. It can not only help them clear up the clutter, but also allow them to continue to gain practical experience. Why not do it? We also encountered several giants of Jotunheim and dark elves along the way, who were either killed instantly by their heat vision or nailed to the wall by their night sky sword. For Li Chengfeng and Hela's current level, these ordinary soldiers are not enough. Pushing open the deepest door to the bedroom, Li Chengfeng and Hela finally saw Odin sleeping peacefully on the bed. As well as an exceptionally tall giants of Jotunheim and Frigga who was struggling under him. If nothing unexpected happens, this giants of Jotunheim should be Lauf, King of the Giants of Jotunheim, Lord of Jotunheim, and Loki's biological father. Hey, you two, are you fighting? Li Chengfeng walked between the two with a smile. Dear Queen of Asgard, I am your future son-in-law after all. Why didn't you inform me when you had a visitor? You treated me as an outsider, didn't you? The appearance of Li Chengfeng and Hela made Frigga, whose magic power and physical strength were almost exhausted, feel relieved. Frigga is no weakling. As for the title of the greatest magician in the 9 realms that Loki has, Frigga is more qualified than Loki. The reason why she is in such a desperate situation now is that she has to fight against a large number of giants of Jotunheim and dark elves while protecting her husband who has fallen into Odin's sleep. They were able to cope with it at first, but the appearance of Lauf, the king of giants of Jotunheim, immediately disrupted the balance. Lauf's fighting ability is definitely above Frigga's. Although not as good as Odin's, if they are in the ice and snow of Jotunheim, they can be on par with Odin. Lauf didn't look at Li Chengfeng, but cast a surprised look at Hela. Hela, goddess of death, haven't you betrayed Asgard long ago? Betrayal? Maybe, but even if I betrayed Odin, the blood connection cannot be erased. Hela didn't really care about the past anymore. She just looked at Lauf with calm eyes. Although I don't want to admit it, Odin is my father after all. He was the person I respected and admired the most. How could he die at the hands of a scumbag like you? Lauf was shocked. Beneath the other person's eyes, which were as calm as the windless sea, a raging undercurrent of murderous intent was surging. He is a bit cowardly. When Odin conquered the 9 realms, he defeated Jotunheim and seized the casket of ancient winters belonging to the giants of Jotunheim. The Asgard commander in that battle is the goddess of death before us. I didn't expect that after thousands of years, she would still be the one standing in front of me. Anyone who has experienced that war knows that the goddess of death standing on the land of Asgard is invincible. So we can't blame Lauf for being cowardly. He couldn't exert his peak strength after leaving Jotunheim. The gap between them was too big. Moreover, he was originally planning to use a sneak attack to eliminate Odin who had fallen into Odin's sleep. God knows how the goddess of death Hela suddenly appeared. Hela, I have no intention of being your enemy. This is all Malkitha's fault. If it weren't for his instigation, how could I have torn up the peace treaty? I can apologize. I can pay compensation. I can also tell you all of Malkitha's plans. Alright, we are all 1,000-year-old foxes, what are you trying to do with me? Li Chengfeng curled his lips and helped Frigga to Odin's side. It's nothing more than handing you a large number of dark elf assassins, and then releasing the criminals in Asgard prison. While disrupting Asgard, you can directly deal with the sleeping Odin. Lauf opened his mouth but said nothing. This is indeed the case. You, the king of the giants of Jotunheim, are really stupid. You haven't even realized that you've been used as cannon fodder. Let me ask you, Malekith didn't come to Asgard, but went to Midgard, right? They didn't think you could successfully deal with Odin. Instead, they used you to tie down the main force of Asgard so that they could search for the whereabouts of the Aether in Midgard. Although Malekith probably couldn't withstand the power of Midgard original. My queen, there is no need to waste time talking to the giants of Jotunheim. Hela walked forward, and countless night sky swords appeared at her sides. Looking at the orange runes on the night sky sword, Lauf actually felt a terrifying unknown power. This power alone is enough to fight against my current self. And this does not include the original terrifying power of the goddess of death. Giants of Jotunheim. Lauf, for the first time in his life, knew what it meant to despair. Well, judging by the time, that idiot Lauf should have already started a fight with the people from Asgard, right? A dark elf took off his mask, and half of the skin on his face, which should have been pale, was actually pure black. This is none other than Malekith, ruler of the dark elves. The black on his face was the mark left when he betrayed his mentor. At this moment, he was leading the dark elf army through a jungle on Earth. After a comprehensive scan with detection equipment, he found 2 locations on Midgard with the most residual ether. Now they were approaching the first location. According to the intelligence they obtained, this place was called Fairy Tale Town. Captain, we have entered the outskirts of Fairy Tale Town. After investigation, we found that there are a total of 400 humanoid life forms in this town. A dark elf captain came to Malekith's side, bent his back and lowered his head respectfully. Should we just eliminate them all? Don't be in a hurry. Explore it carefully first. Although Midgard may not have powerful gods, it is still one of the 9 realms after all. It is better to be careful. Although Malekith is a treacherous and shameless BD, backstabbing his allies is as common as drinking water. But you have to admit, he's an excellent BD. He will never act rashly before he has a complete and huge advantage. He is not a fool like Lauf who will shine with a little sunshine. After finding the long-lost ether of the Dark Elves, the first place he will invade is the leaderless Jotunheim. He didn't think Lauf could escape alive. Even without Odin, Asgard is still not a place that Lauf can conquer. This was also a big question that Malekith had back then. Obviously, there were huge amounts of advantages. Why did Odin, the warmongerer, suddenly change his mind in a short period of time and sign peace treaties with other planets in the Nine Realms? He didn't believe that Odin suddenly wanted to be a benevolent emperor. He understands Odin, or more precisely, he understands the Father of God throughout the ages. They are just like me, guys who will do anything to achieve their goals. It's just that I am more insidious. Definitely, in the mind of this guy Malekith, insidious and cunning are all words of praise. The Dark Elves, in invisible form, quickly approached Fairy Tale Town. At the moment, the Fairy Tale Town had just been rebuilt not long ago, and no outsiders had entered yet. The fairy tale characters are still adapting to their new lives. And Little Red Riding Hood at the moment was skipping and running towards the forest. Everyone in the town was resting today, so she ran out alone to get some fresh air. All fairy tale characters quickly accepted the fact that they had come to another universe. After all, the new life is a little too good. But suddenly, Little Red Riding Hood stopped and her little nose kept twitching. She caught a hint of a strange smell in the air. The next moment, she did a backflip as if by reflex and dodged a slash that appeared out of nowhere. Then, a group of pale humanoid creatures she had never seen before appeared in front of her, holding daggers, and attacked her again. Little Red Riding Hood suddenly lifted her hood, revealing her wolf ears and wolf pupils. The werewolf power that was originally suppressed by the Red Hood instantly gained the upper hand. After a fierce whip kick hit a dark elf, a long wolf howl came out from its throat. This is the code she and her companions developed, representing enemy attack. Chapter 131. Although Little Red Riding Hood is young and likes to act cute, as one of the best hunters in the fairy tale universe, she is always accurate and quick when she takes action. This is also due to her ability as a wolf walker. Since being possessed by the wolf spirit, she has gained extremely strong physical fitness and the power of the wolf spirit, but there are also many side effects. For example, growing wolf ears and wolf pupils, and the desire for killing and bloodthirstiness expanding without limit. Only this blessed Red Hood can suppress the side effects, and definitely the power of the wolf walker will also be suppressed. But her wild intuition from the wolf spirit told her that these pale-skinned creatures in front of her were not so easy to deal with. So after taking off her hood, she howled like a warning without any hesitation. Wolves are social animals, so it's always a good idea to shake hands with people before meeting them. Where did you come from? Don't tell me you are human. I have never smelled anything as damp and dark as you. When facing Little Red Riding Hood, ordinary dark elf soldiers can only parry a few moves before Little Red Riding Hood's claws tear off some body parts. But when 3 captain-level dark elves began to besiege her from 3 directions, she finally felt the huge amounts of threat. Swish! At the critical moment, a path of frost on the ground spread over at an extremely fast speed. After touching the 3 captain-level dark elves, it instantly froze them into crystal ice sculptures. Ruby, are you okay? Sister Elsa. Do I look okay? Little Red Riding Hood Ruby breathed a sigh of relief and put her hood back on. If you had come a step later, I would have had to fight to the death. Okay, I'm here now. Princess Elsa was wearing a white suit and looked like she was from Legally Blonde. Who are these people? Why is it so difficult for us to live a peaceful life? Elsa sighed in dissatisfaction, and then a large number of dark elves appeared in front of her again. The person leading the group was none other than Malekith with a two-toned face. His expression was not good at the moment. When did such a powerful ability user appear in Midgard? Not only did it instantly freeze the captain-level dark elves into ice sculptures, but the ice was also cooler and stronger than that created by the giants of Jotunheim. And this matter seems to this woman easier than breathing. When Malekith saw this scene in invisible state, he wanted to retreat immediately, but he felt a trace of ether from the 2 women in front of him. After thinking it over again and again, he decided to find a way to tackle this tough problem. We don't mean to offend, we're just here for the ether. Ether, you mean the thing that once altered reality and manipulated us? Elsa frowned. As the first mayor elected by everyone in the fairy tale universe, Elsa has been in contact and communication with the FBI these days. At the same time, we also obtain a lot of information that ordinary people cannot obtain at all. That's right. Ether is the most precious treasure of our clan. It has drifted to Earth. As long as we can find Ether, we will leave Earth immediately. In other words, you are aliens. Elsa tilted her head and looked Malekith up and down, but shook her head decisively. First of all, I don't know where the Ether is, but it's not in Storybrooke. Secondly, even if the Ether is in my hands, I won't give it to you. You killed a stranger with whom you had no grudges, but now that you realize I'm not strong enough to deal with you, you think about reason. Elsa sneered at the character of Malekith and his group of dark elves. Most importantly, how can anyone who is associated with that evil thing called Ether be a good person? Little Red Riding Hood Ruby sniffed again at the moment, then looked around vigilantly. Her face changed drastically. Sister Elsa. This yin-yang face is trying to attract your attention. I smell the same scent as them. They are sneaking around us from both wings and heading towards Fairy Tale Town. Upon hearing this, Elsa immediately stretched out her hands, and in an instant, a siege surrounding the entire Fairy Tale Town rose from the ground. And the dark elves who were preparing to attack Fairy Tale Town were frozen in place. Retreat. Retreat immediately. If it was just the performance at the beginning, Malekith would still be willing to take on this tough task, but now he knows. This town was definitely not a place he could invade. He never imagined that the weak earth in his eyes was just an insignificant town, but was actually protected by a real goddess. Want to escape? Elsa just stretched out her hand and pointed, and ice appeared out of thin air and quickly approached Malekith. No matter how fast Malekith ran, he could not distance himself from ice. Instead, he was getting closer and closer. In the end, he had no choice but to activate the teleportation magic circle constructed with dark magic and disappeared from the spot at the moment before being frozen. But the dark elves he brought with him, completely annihilated. Malekith went to Earth to look for the Ether, so he certainly couldn't find a needle in a haystack. This means they at least have a way to detect traces of the Ether. Li Chengfeng sat on Lauf's head and closed his eyes. Then there are two places he is most likely to go. That's Fairy Tale Town, and a top-secret military base in America. It's probably affiliated with the Air Force. These two locations are where the Ether has been stored for the longest time. It is definitely possible that Malekith will go to other places to look for it, but these two locations are where he must go. After listening to Li Chengfeng's analysis, Hela nodded in agreement. Moreover, there are a large number of fairy tale characters in Fairy Tale Town who have been controlled by the Ether, which can easily attract the Dark Elves. Didn't you ask Nick Fury to lead people to focus on these two locations? With the combat effectiveness of the X-Men, Malekith will not be able to succeed. If nothing unexpected happens, Nick Fury should have deployed all of his key forces to the American military base where the Ether was stored for a long time. Wait, the main forces have been deployed to the military base. What about Fairy Tale Town? Fairy Tale Town? Li Chengfeng was stunned for a moment. With Elsa, Nick Fury only needs to send most of the ordinary field agents to Fairy Tale Town to clean up the mess. Elsa. Hela frowned and recalled, remembering the ice magician who almost killed Loki in Storybrooke. But can she take on Malekith and his army of dark elves alone? Li Chengfeng raised his hand and smoothed out Hela's slightly frowned brows. That's right, Elsa. What we saw on the battlefield in Storybrooke was Elsa being controlled by the ether fragments. Without her self-awareness, Elsa could not exert her true strength at all. If it was Elsa in her complete form at that time, I'm afraid we really wouldn't be able to leave Storybrooke. Although Aisha only has the physical fitness of an ordinary person. But it's entirely possible to think of her as another god on Earth. Chapter 132. Li Chengfeng was not talking nonsense. Although Princess Elsa is just a fairy tale character in Disney animation, judging from her performance alone, Elsa definitely deserves the title of God on Earth. Even if the person she shared the title with was the big guy from Kansas, that would be no problem at all. She looks like an ice princess, but in fact, in the late second part, she has already mastered all the attributes of earth, water, wind, and fire, but ice is her main attribute. Then Elsa can cast all attribute spells instantly, with no CD, and even no blue bar, and the range of the AoE is ridiculously huge. You know, in the first part, the entire country was frozen when leaving Arendelle. If you only see this, then Elsa can only be seen as a super elemental magician with unlimited firepower. Even if she can transform energy into matter out of thin air, she is not qualified to be called a god. But another thing she did directly elevated vigor to the level of god. Creation. Even Hela can't do it. But Elsa created an intelligent life in just one breath. Or is it intelligent life based on inorganic matter? If that doesn't make any sense. Created by Nui Sht. They are both inorganic matter, and they are both endowed with intelligent life. This is FG terrifying, okay? And most importantly, there is no godhood, divinity, or divine power in Elsa's body, but she can do it. This is already the level of rule god and concept god. You can even go back in history in the glacier, which is equivalent to rubbing Ant-Man's quantum channel with your hands. As an elemental spirit that connects humans and nature, Elsa possesses both the fragile body of a human and the immense power of a god. Compared to the gods, Elsa's only difference is that she is not old enough. There is absolutely nothing wrong with calling her a god on Earth. Her shortcoming is that she is not very aggressive. As long as she does not threaten the things around her, she is just an ordinary queen. Li Chengfeng didn't think that Malekith in his normal state could last only 3 moves against Elsa. He is not the Malekith who destroyed Asgard in War of the Realms and imitated Gorg the God Butcher to create a copycat version of the Black Death Sword using venom. To put it bluntly, even if it was Malekith in the War of Realms, if he fought with Elsa to the end, he would be doomed to die. Li Chengfeng looked at Hela's questioning expression and suddenly remembered something. He mentioned this to Nick Fury. No wonder Hela had that expression. If I suddenly tell you that your neighbor area is a fairy, can you accept it? Although I didn't know that Aisha was so strong, but I believe in you. Hela held Li Chengfeng's hand again, with unreserved trust in her eyes. Frigga looked on in a daze. Is this still my stepdaughter who is decisive, ruthless, and murderous? And most importantly, ahem, if you want to show off your affection, can you do it behind your parents' backs? Frigga's face was filled with embarrassment. This scene was somewhat similar to when she saw her parents being naughty during the night. I'm here with your father. There must be unrest in other parts of Asgard. Hela, Asgard needs you. I am now the Lord of Midgard. She is also Odin's eldest daughter. Okay, let's go. Team Swarm is still fighting outside, and Thor and Loki are on their way to quell the rebellion. After hearing what Li Chengfeng said, Hela turned around to look at Frigga, who was smiling like an ant, and then looked at Odin, who was lying on the bed, so peaceful that he really looked like an old man. Don't let Odin die. After saying this, Hela and Li Chengfeng left Frigga's bedroom. Li Chengfeng looked at Hela who was walking quickly forward and laughed secretly in his heart. As the saying goes, people from the same family stick together. This arrogant person is exactly like Odin and Loki, etc. In this family, no matter in terms of inner character or appearance, how do you think Odin, Hela, and Loki are the real family? Could it be that Thor is the one who was taken away by mistake? If this were to be a wild history of Asgard, especially one that highlighted both wildness and history, it would probably become the #1 bestseller in the 9 realms. The scene outside the door was not surprising. Countless bodies of dark elves and giants of Jotunheim were lying around the members of Team Star. The FBI agents are not good guys and even little Spider-Man will not show mercy at this time. Ha, these big blue guys aren't as strong as I thought. Harley Quinn picked up her adamantium bat from the ground and saw Li Chengfeng and Hela coming out. How will it end? Will the family be happy or broken? It's okay, it should be considered a happy family, but we dare not say too much. Li Chengfeng shrugged, it has been confirmed that Odin is alive, Frigga is alive, so next we can go find Thor and Loki. What's wrong? Are they in trouble too? Isn't this supporting teammates? Li Chengfeng said with a smile, although I think they probably don't need support, we can't be so unlucky as to run into an opponent at the level of a god on Earth. That would be a miserable situation. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Why is there such a powerful true god on Earth? And it just so happens that there is an extremely strong etheric aura in her territory. Malekith pounded the ground hysterically. Although he managed to escape with the teleportation magic at the last moment, what use was there for him to use a hammer to escape? Completely annihilated. Just by raising his hand, the elite troops of the Dark Elves were wiped out. This team is enough to invade and capture those planets with low civilization progress, okay? At least at this moment, Malekith rarely felt the same feeling as when he was sold to a funeral home by his mother as a child and became a corpse mover. It was endless numbness and despair. But there is always an end to depression. Although Malekith is not a good person, this born bad guy who killed his teacher and mother and destroyed his entire family can always cheer up, just like a superhero with noble character and beliefs. It's just that the latter is for hope. And Malekith, to bring destruction to everything. The coordinates of the teleportation magic circle that allowed him to escape from Elsa were set from the beginning, and it was only 3 kilometers away from another area with a strong etheric atmosphere. The ethereal atmosphere here is even stronger than that of Fairy Tale Town. Malekith is gambling. As long as he can find the ether here, he still has the ability to take revenge on Asgard and bring destruction to the 9 realms. Definitely except the Earth. The next time he comes to Earth, he will be a dog. Malekith made up his mind. But he didn't realize that not far behind him, there was a red gamma monster that gave him a dangerous smile. Chapter 133. Nick Fury sat in a conference room at the Air Force Base, waiting for the person in charge to arrive. This is the place where TIE particles were once preserved for a long time, apart from the Fairy Tale Town. This place also has a well-known name both at home and abroad. Area 51. But this is only the most external disguise. And Nick Fury happens to be one of the people who knows all this. Studying unidentified flying objects. Studying aliens. The people in charge of this base have created huge amounts of conspiracy theories to cover up their true identity. It's very clever, so clever that it makes people uncomfortable. Bite. With a slight sound, the automatic sliding door of the conference room opened. A fat middle-aged black woman walked in. Oh, isn't this the famous Nick Fury? How come you have time to visit my small Air Force base? Stop talking nonsense, Amanda. I came to your Sky Eye Society's territory this time because of an emergency. That's right, the one in front of you is the infamous Amanda Waller. Compared with her, Nick Fury can be considered a conscientious leader. Your high-ranking FBI, when has it not been for an emergency that cannot be handled that it will only cooperate with us, the Sky Eye? Can you clarify the cause and effect? Nick Fury stood up and walked in front of Amanda Waller. If you hadn't been researching TIE particles in this base for a long time, how could you have asked the FBI for help and eventually triggered the Storybrooke incident? Nick Fury knows his old colleague Amanda Waller all too well. When he was still working for the American government, Amanda Waller showed extraordinary potential. She was born to be a cold-blooded spy master. He even felt that Amanda Waller's Eye Society had failed to understand the ether and had asked him for help, simply trying to divert trouble. After all, TIE particles are reality gem, and during the research process, many phenomena that they cannot understand are bound to appear. Now that the Dark Elves are attacking, I have to clean up their mess. It's absolutely amazing. As soon as he finished speaking, the automatic sliding door opened again, and 2 people who were not wearing the uniform of the Sky Eye Society walked in. Commander Waller, the external defenses of the Sky Eye have all been taken over by the FBI. The person who was speaking was wearing an orange and black combat uniform, and a full covering mask that was half orange and half black. Although the person following him didn't say anything, he kept his eyes on Nick Fury, as if he wanted to stare flowers out of Nick Fury's face. Nick Fury glared back with his one eye without any hesitation. What are you looking at? Am I afraid of you just because you are wearing a shirt with a skull painted on it? After spending a long time with Li Chengfeng, Nick Fury himself didn't realize that he always had some similarities with Li Chengfeng when speaking. Just as hateful. Amanda Waller glared at the 2 men, then said to Nick Fury in a friendly manner, "Let me introduce them. These 2 are high-level agents of the AOM, Slade Wilson and Frank Castle." Nick Fury raised an eyebrow, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, Deathstroke Slade Wilson, I know you. Your cousin is doing well in our FBI. As for this Frank Castle, who are you?" After rolling his eyes with his one eye, Nick Fury pushed Amanda Waller aside, bumped Frank Castle aside, and walked towards the door. "My FBI has taken over this extraterrestrial invasion. After it's over, I will issue you a written file and ask you to report to the American government. Next time, don't overestimate your abilities and touch this unknown force. Do you really think you are our FBI?" What does Nick Fury like most about Li Chengfeng? If there is a grudge, it must be taken on the spot, without any delay. Ah! Li Chengfeng shuddered violently. Because the action was too obvious, Hela even looked at him sideways. "What's wrong with you? Are you physically ill after seeing the corpses of the Dark Elves and Giants of Jotunheim?" "No, I just felt that someone had installed B for me." Hela just raised her eyebrows. Li Chengfeng said a lot of strange things, and she couldn't understand every word. In short, as long as there are no physical or mental problems, it's fine. As the commander of the Asgard army, he understood too well the horror of the battlefield. Even Asgard's warriors would show various abnormalities after leaving the battlefield. She had learned a word in Midgard, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is the warrior's greatest enemy. Before Hela could continue speaking, a silver shadow flashed by, and Quicksilver, who had been leading the way in front, ran back. Captain! There's a little problem ahead. Small problem? What small problem is worthy of you coming back to report? Li Chengfeng asked with some curiosity. Although Asgard does not have a large population, its area is extremely large. Li Chengfeng had no choice but to let Quicksilver Pietro, who had the fastest legs, go ahead to explore the way and come back to report when he found anything. But unexpectedly, he turned back not long after running out. It's a minor problem indeed, because I just found a dead body. Asgard is now a battlefield, and the last thing on a battlefield is corpses. Hela said calmly, the most effective way is to solve this war from the source. The problem is definitely not the body, but this body is something I have never seen before. It is not an Asgardian, a dark elf, or a giant of Jotunheim. It looks like the legendary Angel. Angel. Everyone was shocked. After all, most of the people present live in Western countries. Even if they do not believe in Christianity, they have been exposed to it to some extent. The degree of shock is probably about the same as when a person in the Republic says, I saw Monkey King's dead body. Only Hela's eyes showed a thoughtful look. Come on, Pietro, lead the way, let's go take a look ahead. So everyone followed Pietro to a place more than 200 meters ahead. It looked like a multi-party melee here. In addition to the corpses of the dark elves and giants of Jotunheim scattered on the ground, there were also 2 female corpses that had never been seen before. It has a human form, all 4 limbs intact and no trace of animal transformation, and has a pair of huge amounts of wings on its back. The pure white feathers did not fade even after death. Li Chengfeng walked forward and carefully observed the 2 so-called angels. It seems that they are indeed the birdmen in the heaven dimension. Damn, to put it bluntly, these guys are really not good people. It seems we miscalculated. There are not only dark elves and giants of Jotunheim ahead, but also these winged guys. And Hela got a thorough look at the 2 bodies belonging to Angel. She had seen it before. The first and only meeting with Angel dates back thousands of years. At that time, Hela and Odin were on the verge of a breakdown, so she remembers it particularly clearly. What's wrong? Li Chengfeng noticed Hela's expression and asked with some concern, could it be that these angels are your acquaintances? Back then, when I was the crown prince of Asgard, I met Angel. Hela did not answer Li Chengfeng, but instead explained to everyone, at that time, this universe had more than 9 realms, there was also a 10th realm called Heavenly Kingdom. What Hela said made all the members of the star team except Li Chengfeng PK up their ears. They sat next to the tall pile of bones and listened to Hela talk about the past. The 10th dimension. King Ada asked, but I've read a lot of Asgard history books in the past few days, and there's no record of such a dimension. Because the Kingdom of Heaven was originally Asgard's greatest ally. Not only did it have many angel warriors in the Asgard army, it also provided a Pegasus with wings on its ribs, which was once the exclusive mount for the Valkyries. Hearing Hela herself mention the Valkyries of Asgard, Li Chengfeng looked at Hela's expression. Although he had a clear conscience, he felt a little regretful. After all, she almost killed all the Valkyrie. But the Queen of Heaven at that time, Haven, was a greedy person. Asgard was clearly conducting an equal and mutually beneficial exchange with Heaven, but she demanded too much and even set her sights on Odin's treasure house. Odin has always been very tolerant of this ally, but one day. Hela gestured with her hands, Odin directly severed the connection between Asgard and Heaven, and eventually even separated Heaven from the World Tree. This was a severance of ties and an exile. But I don't know why Odin did this, because not long after the incident, I was also sealed in Midgard by Odin. Hela told the whole story of what happened back then. She had never had a good impression of the Kingdom of Heaven, so she had never made a close friendship with them, nor had she ever had any direct conflicts with them. But now that Angel appears at this time, something is not right. Taking advantage of the emergence of the 9 realms integration phenomenon, is it planning to return to the 9 realms through Asgard? Wait, Hela, look here. Li Chengfeng pointed at one of the dead angels and said, "Do the scars on her body look like those left by Mjolnir?" "Yes, it is Mjolnir." As the former owner of Mjolnir, Hela knows all too well the damage this Uru alloy hammer can inflict. Angel has scars from Mjolnir on his body, which means the Angel Kingdom is already at odds with Thor and Loki. Thinking further, the Angel Kingdom is probably wearing the same pants as the Dark Elves and the Giants of Jotunheim. Although Thor and Loki have made great progress in strength after being specially trained by Hela for so long, they are now facing the combined forces of 3 planets, plus the vicious prisoners in Asgard, so they are probably in great danger. Li Chengfeng naturally thought of it as well. This time it was his command error. I originally thought that even if Thor and Loki couldn't walk sideways, basically no one could kill them. But now it seems, under the siege of the 4 forces, the 2 men will be badly injured if they don't die. Boom! Thor wielded Mjolnir and sent down another divine thunder, completely knocking down the giants of Jotunheim who was blocking his way. Then he turned around, his brows full of worry. "Loki! How are you?" "Ahem. Not good, but I'm still alive for now." Loki leaned against a flower bed and coughed, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood again. The originally handsome face was now extremely pale. Looking down, I saw that Loki's abdomen was already stained with blood. The wound had been sealed by himself with black magic. Although there was no heavy bleeding, the pain had affected his brain's normal thinking. The pain of having his abdomen pierced by a sword was hard to bear even though he was a descendant of the king of the giants of Jotunheim. After all, the wound was not caused by an ordinary weapon, but a sharp sword wrapped with angel runes. This sword seemed to destroy his self-healing ability. At this time, the people who had been chasing Thor and Loki also showed up one after another. The first was a dark elf wearing gold and red armor and a horned helmet. This man's name is Agrum, and he is the dark elf with the strongest melee ability. His physical strength is not inferior to that of the big fool Thor. He is the one who leads the dark elves who invade Asgard this time. Then there are 2 sisters with graceful figures. The one wearing green from the crown to the tights to the cape and boots is the elder sister, the Enchantress, one of the most powerful witches in Asgard, who is good at manipulating others with her beauty. The one wearing a blue tight dress and holding a ramhorn warhammer is her younger sister, the siren Lorelei, who can make men fall in love with her with just her voice. Originally, she is a powerful warrior. The last one to show up was even more heavyweight. He was wearing extremely revealing golden armor that looked very defensive, holding a sharp sword of heaven, and a golden belt made of heaven symbols wrapped around his body. The most deadly warrior in Heavenly Kingdom. Angela! Stop struggling, Thor and Loki of Asgard. Angela slowly approaches Thor and Loki with sword in hand. This time, they joined forces with the Dark Elves and the Giants of Jotunheim to invade Asgard. They didn't expect that they would be able to find important figures like Thor and Loki so easily. But unexpectedly, these 2 people were so stupid as to run out on their own to hunt down the Enchantress and Lorelei. So after sacrificing the life of a Giants of Jotunheim royal family, Thor and Loki were forced into a desperate situation. Loki, although you used black magic to seal the wound in time, you must be able to feel that the wrath of the rune angel is burning your soul. Humph, angel? If you have the guts, hit me with the sword again. Even though Loki acted timidly in front of Li Chengfeng and Hela, that was just his unique way of acting like a spoiled child. Facing such a mortal enemy, he was very tough. You can lose as a person, but you can't lose your mouth. A guy without even wings actually calls himself an angel? No matter how you look at it, you look more like a Vanir or an Asir, okay? Not to mention, you look a lot like your mother. Loki's precise complaint hit Angela's biggest pain point. She is clearly the most deadly warrior in the Angel Kingdom, but she doesn't even have the form of an angel. So she stopped talking, just raised her sword and rushed towards Loki and Thor again. Thor at the moment was exhausted, but he still tried his best to block Angela's sword. But still a step slow. Just as the sword was about to pierce Loki's head, a portal suddenly opened. A night sky sword flew out and repelled Angela's attack. Loki, you are such a clever little fellow. How do you know that this Miss Angela is the daughter of your Odin family? Loki, black question mark face. Chapter 134. Odin's family situation is hard to describe. Even a time traveler like Li Chengfeng, who was used to seeing outrageous relationships, had the urge to give the old man a thumbs up. It's really awesome. After careful calculations, Li Chengfeng finally figured out the relationships of the Odin family. First, Odin married his first wife, Jodi, who represented the primordial earth, and gave birth to Hela. Then after Jodi died, the Aesir gods formed an alliance with the Vanir gods, and Frigga of the Vanir gods married Odin as his second wife, who is now the Queen of Gods. In the eyes of everyone, including Hela, Odin and Frigga's first child is Thor. But what they didn't know was that Thor had a biological sister with the same father and mother, and this sister was kidnapped by the angel Queen Haven of the Angel Kingdom as soon as she was born. Her original intention was to extort more benefits from Odin in exchange for his daughter. But at that time, Odin had not yet decided to challenge the gods, and he was still the aggressive and hot-tempered king. Odin did not accept the threat at all, so he directly separated the entire Angel Kingdom from the World Tree. From then on, only the 9 realms remained. What happened next was the same old story, imprisoning the eldest daughter, giving birth to Thor, and adopting Loki. Odin's original plan was probably to sacrifice the daughter he had with Frigga. But unexpectedly, Queen Angel, who had no bottom line, did not kill Angela. She even raised Angela and trained her to be the most deadly warrior in the Angel Kingdom, and then instilled in her hatred for Asgard and other planets in the 9 realms. Bad news, Angela was indeed brainwashed by the ideas instilled by Haven. The good news is that the brainwashing was not thorough, and Angela always had doubts about her identity and Haven's purpose. Originally, Angela was about to ask a question after hearing what Li Chengfeng said to Loki, but the moment she came into close contact with the Night Sky Sword, she felt the terrifying power. She didn't dare to be distracted at all and tried her best to barely hold on. But on the other side of the portal, the woman who swung out the Night Sky Sword looked like it was just a casual attack. Is the gap so big? Angela suddenly lost confidence in Queen Angel's agreement to cooperate with Malekith to seize Asgard. She originally thought that Odin's 2 sons were the top fighting force in Asgard besides Odin and Frigga. But I didn't expect that there would be such a thing. The information previously provided by Malekith and Lauf was totally inaccurate. But before she could curse these 2 unreliable allies in her heart, she saw many people walking out of the portal one after another. Angela's expression changed instantly. So many people outside of intelligence? Although the body of the Midgard man who spoke just now was not deified, he possessed the status of a god. Although he is still a human being, how can he be a simple person if he can be associated with the word god? There is also the big green guy with an innocent look on his face. As long as you have a healthy brain, you will think that he is definitely a powerful warrior. Even the burly dark elf Agrim looked small in front of this green giant. Who are you? Angela's eyes were fixed on Hela in the front. It was her. She launched the sword just now. The overwhelming force made her hand holding the sword tremble continuously. This woman is definitely the most powerful enemy Angela has ever encountered. You ask me? Hela did not ask Thor and Loki, but stood in front of her 2 brothers without hesitation. I am Hela, the goddess of death of Asgard, the king of Midgard, the lord of greed. Angela swallowed. The Angel Kingdom was not like Asgard, where Odin did not erase all information about Hela. On the contrary, the record of this possible powerful enemy is extremely detailed. When the Angel Kingdom received the news that Odin had sealed Hela in Midgard, the mood went from personal gloating to collective celebration. There really are fools in this world who cut off their own arms. This is also the premise that Angel Queen Haven would agree to cooperate with Malekith without hesitation. But how come Hela, the goddess of death, who should still be sealed by Odin, suddenly appeared in front of her? And most importantly, this goddess, who had made great contributions to Asgard but was sealed, actually stood in front of her younger brother. Could it be that the goddess of death Hela is the type of person who puts family ties above everything else? No. She wanted to enjoy the delicious revenge herself. This attitude towards Thor and Loki clearly shows that only I can bully you, no one else can. The appearance of Hela also caused the other 2 people present to exclaim in surprise. Hela? Lorelei, am I seeing things? The one standing before us is actually the legendary goddess of death. Sister, you are not mistaken. The unique clothing and colors, and the night sky sword. That's right. It's the goddess of death Hela. Lorelei answered her sister's questions while swinging the Ramhorn warhammer expressionlessly. Then, the dark elves and giants of Jotunheim controlled by Lorelei rushed towards Hela, waving their weapons. The 2 prisoners, Lorelei and the Enchantress, are just a temporary team with them. They just want to destroy Asgard. The Enchantress and Lorelei. Hela suddenly grinned, which made Li Chengfeng stunned. I remember that thousands of years ago, you two were warriors under my command. There was a hint of nostalgia in Hela's words. Don't treat the sisters Enchantress and Lorelei as mere vases just because they are beautiful and charming. Seeing how ruthless they were on the battlefield, even the goddess of death couldn't help but look at them a few more times. And now, her former subordinates are standing against her. Goddess of death. Even if you return, what can you do? Asgard's destruction is imminent. The Enchantress does not have the intelligence network of Angela or the Dark Elves. She and her sister simply yearn for freedom outside the prison and are against chaos, who is eager to see the world in chaos. Two deserters from the battlefield. I'm not interested in wasting my time talking to you. Hela curled her lips. Although the two sisters had outstanding abilities and were the strongest among the strong in a place like Asgard. But he cannot be trusted at all, not to mention that he has a history of turning against his own side on the battlefield. We are simply dissatisfied with your Odin family's actions of conquering the 9 realms and establishing a new order. Lorelei said, a sickly blush gradually appearing on her face. There is no need for us to follow a commander who goes against us. After saying that, he jumped onto the back of an enchanted giants of Jotunheim with a ramhorn hammer in his hand and charged towards Hela. It seems that fighting first is the best way to make you listen to me. So Hela raised her hand, and the entire star team, including Li Chengfeng, all tensed up. Although Li Chengfeng is the leader of the star team, all daily training has been changed by Hela into warrior training courses. Sometimes he speaks much better than Li Chengfeng. After all, the devilish training of the goddess of death is engraved deep in the hearts of every member. Including the big guys from Phil Coulson's squad. Hela often has nothing to do in the base, so she helps Phil Coulson train the team members. Teaching a group is teaching a large group is still teaching. So after Hela gave the order, the team members rushed towards the enemy like wild dogs. Hulk didn't hesitate at all and went straight to the dark elf Agrum. It was obvious that there was an extremely strong giant under the armor. Hulk loved fighting with people like this the most. Boom! The fist carrying the power of Gamma collided with the fist of the dark elf Agrum. Judging from this one round alone, Gamma power has a slight advantage. And Agrum's eyes widened due to the reaction of the collision of the two fists. This big green one. How strong is it? If we only look at strength, he has surpassed Thor. Thinking of this, Agrum immediately adjusted his posture and attacked Hulk again. But Hulk looked at his opponent, and the red light ring on his hand lit up. The hot blood is red with anger, taken from the remains of a corpse that has not yet cooled. Deep hatred and deep resentment boil the lungs. I will forge your path to the underworld. As Hulk recited the red light oath, his anger and strength continued to rise. Not only did he instantly catch Agrum's attack, he also easily knocked him to the ground. Then he jumped high and hit Agrum with a falling meteor. I saw a green fat man wearing a red combat uniform, riding on Agrum, and punching him crazily. When the Enchantress saw the miserable state of the unfortunate man Agrum, she shuddered all over. But he couldn't help but look at Hulk. If she could charm this big green guy, why would she worry about failing to achieve her goal? Definitely, this is just her one-sided fantasy. Not to mention the green fat man's weirdly strong mental resistance, the opponents she and her sister faced would never give them the chance to get close to Hulk. The crimson magical force flashed through the air, and the enchanted witch was immediately hit, and her body began to become uncontrollable. The force forced her head to face forward. A magician in dark red attire walked towards her. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wanda Maximove. I'm a magician. After experiencing the events of Storybrooke, Wanda's control over the origin magic power has reached a new level. And with the passing of Sithorn, the shackles in her heart had long been untied. This young magician has only been awakening for a few months, but he can already be included in the discussion of the strongest magicians. Let my sister go. Let her go. Seeing that the Enchantress was directly controlled by Wanda, Lorelei jumped off the back of the giants of Jotunheim without saying a word and changed her target of attack to Wanda. But a silver shadow suddenly flashed before his eyes. The sheephorn warhammer that was supposed to be in his hand was now in the hands of the silver shadow. You are a very cruel woman, to wield such a dangerous weapon. Pietro complained calmly on the surface, but he was actually filled with relief in his heart. Fortunately, Loki cast resistance magic on everyone, otherwise they would be in real danger. As a single guy who had never been in a relationship, when I heard Lorelei's unromantic roar, I had the urge to make her my own. Although the impulse was extremely weak and could not influence his will at all, it still appeared. But Lorelai's plump and charming figure always makes people imagine, if he manipulates her to do some strange things. Quicksilver shuddered at the thought. Being controlled is not a good thing. Hey, Pietro, you're not going to show mercy because you're attracted by her beauty, are you? Harley Quinn, who was working with Wang Ada to harvest the dark elves, happened to pass by Quicksilver and asked quietly. No, no, no. Absolutely not. Quicksilver's sanity returned instantly. He didn't want to be dragged by Harley Quinn to attend that devilish psychological counseling class after the mission was over. Then he transformed into a silver shadow again and swung the ramhorn hammer towards Lorelai. Crack! Ah! The sound of the patella being crushed and the screams reached Angela's ears at the same time. But she no longer had the energy to figure out who made the sound. Because at the moment, there were two gods standing in front of her. One is the goddess of death Hela, and the other is a Midgard man who is extremely close to the goddess of death. Sweat beads ran down her temples, and she maintained a fighting stance, but neither of the two men took action, but instead kept whispering to each other. Then, while saying this, he looked at her with a strange and playful look. Just when she could no longer bear this strange atmosphere and was about to launch a suicidal charge, the man spoke. Dear Angela, I just came in a hurry and didn't have time to introduce myself. My name is Li Chengfeng, and I'm from Earth, which you call Midgard. My other identity is the future husband of Hela, the Lord of Midgard. As Li Chengfeng spoke, he took a few steps forward. But it was these few steps that made Angela immediately take an offensive stance. What do you think this has to do with me? Let's fight. Warriors from the Angel Kingdom are never afraid of death. What are you talking about, Angela? How come it has nothing to do with you? Li Chengfeng frowned when he heard Angela say that. You are my dear sister-in-law, you have to call me brother-in-law. As the saying goes, the sister-in-law is half of the brother-in-law's buttocks. I was just joking. Hela, your eyes are a little too scary. As soon as this explosive information came out, Angela's already tense nerves instantly broke down. After being stunned for a long time, he gradually calmed down. What do you mean? I want to call you brother-in-law? That means. That's right. You are Odin's child. Hela, the goddess of death, is your elder sister. Thor, the god of thunder, and Loki, the god of trickery, are your younger brothers. Especially Thor, who just wanted to block the sword with his body, is your biological brother from the same father and mother. Li Chengfeng was too lazy to beat around the bush with Angela. This sister-in-law had long doubted his identity, and the best way was to directly break through this unfounded window paper. And Angela obviously. Some believed it. Queen Angel, didn't tell me. Nonsense, she snatched you away from your parents, blackmailed your parents, and turned you into a sharp blade to swing towards Asgard. I have long felt that Queen Angel cannot be trusted, but how can you guarantee that everything you say is true? Hearing Angela's doubts, Li Chengfeng smiled and shook his head. Then, the red, orange and green lights all lit up. In an instant, the terrifying three-color energy swept across most of Asgard. Li Chengfeng said to Angela, who had a dull expression, if you weren't my sister-in-law, you would have been dead for almost 5 minutes. Chapter 135. Call. When Odin woke up from his annual Odin sleep, but before he opened his eyes, he vaguely felt that there were many people in front of him. Is he not sleeping in his own abode? Why are there so many people? Are the guards just there to eat for free? Odin was a bit grumpy when he woke up, and the surging power of Odin covered the entire Asgard in an instant. Odin! You finally woke up. Frigga sat on the edge of the bed, her heart finally at ease. So much has happened during this period of time. Hela's return, the 9 realms integration phenomenon suddenly began, Odin's sleep, and the dark elves and giants of Jotunheim invaded Asgard. It can be said that there are more major events than those encountered in the past 1,000 years. Odin knew nothing about what happened next except that Hela had returned. After all, Odin's sleep will completely internalize Odin's power and completely close off his perception of the outside world. So, when Odin opened his one eye to see who wanted to disturb his sleep, he was very surprised when he saw his entire family. When I fell into Odin's sleep, what happened? His wife, eldest daughter, 2 sons, and the ghost who abducted his daughter were all present, and he was not lying in his own residence, but in Frigga's bedroom. And why do Thor and Loki still have so many scars on their bodies? But it was obvious that these two tough-skinned guys were fine. As for Hela, the fact that she was able to stand aside with a calm expression meant that the problem of her daughter being infected by Mammon's blood had been resolved, and that he could no longer directly feel the presence of the power of greed in his daughter's body. Then he looked at the extra orange ring on his daughter's hand. It seemed that this thing was used to suppress the greedy power from the dimensional demon, and even control it. But when his eyes moved to Li Chengfeng's hand, he found that he also had an identical orange ring, and the evil fire in Lao Deng's heart suddenly hit his forehead. 2 orange lantern rings were worn on the ring fingers of each person. Although as the king of God, I was mentally prepared. Because she promised her daughter that she would become the king of Midgard and rule Midgard together with her husband. But as a father, I really want to use the power of Odin to kill this BD from Midgard. Definitely, there was no sign of it on the surface. Odin's mouth just twitched twice, revealing a kind and gentle expression. The hot-tempered self of that year was killed by the kicking of the gods. The king of God Odin who survived is a god known for his kindness and justice. After forcing himself to calm down, Odin finally had time to truly see the man named Li Chengfeng. You don't know until you see it. It's shocking. Although he is essentially immortal, he possesses the status of an old god of Midgard, so there is no problem in insisting that he is a god. The red, orange, and green energies that had not yet dissipated from his body were even more turbulent and terrifying. No wonder he dared to go back to Asgard directly with Hela. A bitter taste rose in Odin's mouth. Although his Odin power becomes stronger as he grows older, he still seems to be no match for Hela and Li Chengfeng now. If his daughter really wanted to overthrow him, she would have already sat on the Asgard throne that originally belonged to her. What happened? Frigga was about to speak, but after thinking for a while, she gave Li Chengfeng a look. She was mainly responsible for protecting Odin's safety in the bedroom. Although she knew roughly what happened, she didn't know the details after all, she had not experienced it personally. Moreover, Frigga also wanted Li Chengfeng to get closer to Odin. After all, he is the husband chosen by the eldest daughter. After careful observation, she found that Li Chengfeng is a genius who possesses black magic, necromancy, and origin magic power. Compared with this person, the little fool in his family who is known as the #1 magician in the 9 realms is as shallow as a beginner. The scariest thing is, she's only 25 years old. Are the powers of all short-lived species so terrifying? Li Chengfeng received the eye hint from his future mother-in-law and nodded slightly in response, indicating that he understood. Then Li Chengfeng stepped forward. Considering that Odin had just woken up, he smiled what he thought was the kindest smile and said, "More than 80% of Asgard has been destroyed." The first sentence almost made Odin spit out blood. What? Asgard has fallen? Hey! Lao Deng, why are you so anxious? Calm down and listen to me slowly, okay? Li Chengfeng gave Odin a reproachful look. Odin was so rude that he interrupted others casually. Odin immediately clenched his fists. Calm down. How can you let me calm down? But this only happened in a moment, and Odin was no fool. At this moment, Asgard's strongest fighters were in Frigga's bedroom instead of fighting outside, which meant that the incident had basically been resolved. Okay, go on. That's right, don't be so stubborn when you get old. Li Chengfeng nodded with satisfaction and continued, although Asgard was almost completely occupied at the beginning, with the joint efforts of the Asgard army and the star team from Earth, we successfully recovered the lost territory and wiped out the foreign enemies and internal thieves. External enemy? Internal thief? Odin repeated the 2 words, then raised his head in confusion. Internal thief, I can understand, there are many vicious criminals in the prison. But how did the external enemy enter Asgard? Without Bifrost's transportation, it is almost impossible to enter and leave Asgard. This is the value of the 9 realms integration phenomenon that occurs once every 5,000 years. Li Chengfeng patted Odin on the shoulder. This dimensional barrier is now so weak that if I stand on the border of Asgard now, I can even go back to Midgard without entering the dimensional coordinates. Odin didn't quite understand the specific principles of teleportation magic, but Frigga's face changed. As one of the strongest witches on the magic side, Frigga definitely understood what Li Chengfeng was talking about. The 9 realms integration event is, in a sense, a dimensional integration event. The 9 realms that originally existed on different branches of the world tree were originally 9 different dimensions, but they have a tendency to integrate into one. That's scary. Originally, communication between the 9 realms was only possible under special circumstances. Now, as long as we can find the weak point of the dimension caused by the 9 realms integration phenomenon, we can directly cross to a certain dimension on the world tree. No wonder the giants of Jotunheim and the Dark Elves took this opportunity to jointly attack Asgard. The usual iron wall has now turned into an electric sliding door that automatically opens when it senses people. Who can resist the temptation of looting and fighting across dimensions at almost no cost? Among the 9 realms, except for Asgard, Vanaheim, and Midgard, the other 6 realms are relatively primitive and barbaric, and nomadic civilization is prevalent. To put it nicely, the people here are simple and honest. To put it bluntly, it's barbaric and bloodthirsty. In short, the Dark Elves, giants of Jotunheim, and angels joined forces to invade Asgard, and destroyed the prison in Asgard and released all the criminals. Li Chengfeng shrugged. Although the lost territory has been basically recovered now, according to the report of Sif and the 3 Asgard warriors, at least 30% of the people in the prison took the opportunity to escape to other dimensions. Odin was a little stunned. What is going on? Dark Elves? Giants of Jotunheim? And angels? Join forces to attack Asgard? Are they so bold as to do this? Hey, you look quite dissatisfied, right? If Hela is still sealed in Midgard, the Star Squad will not come to Asgard, and your 2 sons will still be imprisoned in 2 places in Midgard. Do you think Asgard can be spared in this situation? Li Chengfeng's words were like a hammer, hitting Odin's heart hard. If it weren't for them. With only Sif and the 3 Asgard warriors, even if they lead the Asgard army, they can only hide in Asgard and resist. Recovering lost territory? Forget it. So, thank goodness Hela is back. You should thank me first for this. Li Chengfeng shamelessly patted his chest. By the way, Lao Deng, do you want your daughter? What do you mean? Odin was shocked by Li Chengfeng's unconventional thoughts. Wasn't he just talking about the invasion? That's exactly what it says. Li Chengfeng shrugged. While you were in Odin's sleep, we fought a great battle with the invaders and successfully killed Lauf, the king of the giants of Jotunheim. The enchantress, Lorelei, and the dark elf Agrim were also seriously injured and thrown into prison. No, after all that, what does it have to do with me wanting a daughter? Li Chengfeng looked at Odin in a daze, then sighed. He had clearly reminded Odin that Angel was involved in this invasion, and then deliberately asked him if he wanted his daughter. But he could not remember at all that he once had a daughter, the first child with Frigga. And Frigga fell into the same confusion. Angel Queen Haiwen. Let's see how many times you have this bad luck. The parents of the abducted child simply didn't believe that the man would let their daughter survive. Definitely, in fact, Queen Angel didn't really intend to let Angela survive at the beginning. However, Angel, who was the executor, was soft-hearted and hid Angela. After Queen Angel found out, she thought that letting the father and daughter kill each other would be the best way to relieve her hatred, so she trained Angela to be the sharpest sword in the Angel Kingdom. From a third-party perspective, Li Chengfeng thought that this Angel Queen was definitely interested in Odin. Otherwise, as the one who took the initiative to cause trouble, what reason would she have to hate Odin? But if we add some blackened plot about unrequited love, wouldn't it make more sense? The unofficial history of Asgard has been further enhanced. It's really wild and historical. The Queen Angel in the comics is still charming, so why does she fall for Odin, the old man with a white beard? But none of this matters anymore. Seeing that the atmosphere has been set, Li Chengfeng nodded towards Hela. Hela raised her brows, then turned and walked out of the chamber. After a while, he came in again with another person. It was Angela. I didn't feel anything when I saw Angela alone, but when she and Frigga were in the same space, I could see it immediately. These 2 people must be related by blood. Angela is totally a younger version of Frigga. Li Chengfeng couldn't help but roll his eyes. Angela looks almost exactly like Frigga, and Hela and Loki are very similar to Odin in character and inner qualities. Only Thor looks nothing like his parents. Li Chengfeng felt that his theory that Thor was picked up from the trash can was becoming more and more true. You. Both Frigga and Odin were so shocked that they couldn't utter a complete sentence. Odin couldn't even continue sitting on the bed. He stood up in a hurry and came to Angela. Constantly looking at the woman in front of him. Yes. Very similar. Odin only took a look at Angela and was reminded of Gandalf, who was a magician but could also wield a sword to fight. Bah! It's Frigga. You are, my daughter. Audrey, is it really you? At the moment, Odin and Frigga are not the king and queen of Asgard. Just an old couple who got lost and found their new home. Angela frowned subconsciously and wanted to step back, but the reaction from her body and blood was more real, overwhelming the hatred and distortion that Haven had deliberately instilled in her. She originally thought that although she did not have Angel's wings, she should be an abandoned child adopted by Angel. But as she grew older and stronger, she began to sense a hint of calculation and fear in Queen Angel's eyes. From that moment on, the seeds of doubt took root in her heart. She believes that she does not belong to the Angel Kingdom. It was not until this moment that her guesses about her own life experience became completely clear, and her original suspicion of Angel Queen Haven began to turn into overwhelming hatred at this moment. Queen Angel, who was high and mighty, was so despicable that she took her away from her biological parents for her own selfish desires. He even wanted to turn her into a sharp blade to swing at her biological parents. However, now the sharp blade has changed direction, ready to chop down the filthy Queen Angel at any time. She slowly stretched out her hands, spanning thousands of years, and held her father and mother's hands again. Just like when she was born, she tightly held the fingers of Odin and Frigga. The 1.5 eyes of Odin and his wife were instantly filled with tears. "Kid, you're home. How lucky it is to have lost and found it again." Li Chengfeng sighed and came to Hela's side. "You seem to have a lot to say." Hela looked at Li Chengfeng. Although the time she had known this man was only a small wave in her thousands of years of divine life, the ripples filled her originally empty heart. "Know him as you know yourself. This man has too much emotion." Seeing this scene, Li Chengfeng appeared calm on the surface, but the anger in his heart was raging. "There's really nothing much to say. It's over if the trafficker's entire family dies." Chapter 136. Malekith never thought that this trip to Earth would be either a life-saving journey or a life-saving journey. It's his bad luck to run into the human god in Fairy Tale Town. But why did he encounter a red humanoid monster just after he landed? And he could feel contempt and scrutiny in the monster's eyes. This shows that he is not a violent beast, but an intelligent creature with reason. Malekith clenched his teeth tightly, completely ignoring the blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. As the monarch of the Dark Elves, he is a cunning and despicable villain. But he is not a wimp. It is human nature to run away when faced with Elsa. After all, only those nice guys, those so-called superheroes, would rush to their deaths without hesitation. At the beginning, he did not run away while spitting blood like he is doing now, but he rushed forward with a long sword in his right hand and black magic in his left hand. But the ending is not very pretty. Although Red Hulk does not have as high an upper limit as Hulk, as a relatively powerful member of the Hulk family, there is no problem for his basic attributes to be comparable to the normal Savage Hulk. And the normal Hulk versus the normal Malekith. That is one-sided abuse. His black magic hit Red Hulk, but apart from leaving some scars, it was unable to stop Red Hulk's steps. After Malekith slashed the sword at Red Hulk turned around and smiled. "My friend, your attack is like a spoiled child to me." This sentence completely broke Malekith's defense, and he started the game of him escaping and him chasing again. But Red Hulk, also known as General Ross, could have killed Malekith directly, but he deliberately left him a way out. A lifeline leading to the Air Force Base. As the nominal commander of this military base, General Ross originally did not want to have anything to do with the FBI. But the reality is that the FBI took over all perimeter defense within a few minutes. Even though he can transform into huge amounts of gamma monsters, he has to obey the orders of a man named Nick Fury. General Ross, who was originally maintaining the Hulk form and venting his emotions by swimming in the surrounding wild lakes, also heard Nick Fury's orders on the communicator. "Dear General Ross, how are you doing recently?" "Nick Fury, what do you want?" "I regret to inform you that the external defense of Area 51 is temporarily taken over by the FBI. I won't ask why you are not sitting in your office during working hours. Now I will give you a task. Guard the perimeter of Area 51 and look for a pale-skinned dark elf leader." Nick Fury's words made General Ross pause. "What the hell? Defense taken over? Still looking for a pale-skinned dark elf leader? What are you doing? What evil things have you done? What are dark elves? Ha ha ha, as for the adjective harmful to nature and morality, I think it's more appropriate to use it on Amanda Waller." Nick Fury smiled. "Although you were captured by Hydra for quite a long time and brainwashed, it was a blessing in disguise that you became Red Hulk. It's just that you don't know much about what happened to the ARE in Area 51 in the past 2 years. The unknown entity that you dug out that year, we call it Ether, which is the treasure of the Dark Elves. They came here for this treasure. I heard from Amanda Waller that the Storybrooke incident was caused by Ether, but wasn't Ether already taken in by the one from your FBI, Li Chengfeng? Yes, that's right. Wasn't he taken in by him? That's true, but the Dark Elves are looking for the remaining aura of the Ether, and this base is the place with the thickest aura of the Ether. Okay, I get it. Now we are the bait, right? Come on, find this big fish as soon as possible. Nick Fury smiled and suddenly lowered his voice and said, after all, you don't want to be suppressed by Amanda Waller all the time, right? After many hints from Nick Fury, General Ross finally took the bait. After all, compared to Nick Fury, who has nothing to do with him, he hates Amanda Waller, a vicious and unscrupulous person, more. And most importantly, the two of them have the same rank, but she is the Commander-in-Chief of the Sky Eye Society, and everyone has to obey her. But with the merit of capturing this alien invader, combined with his own power as Red Hulk, he will surely be able to demonstrate his value in front of the American government. Hey? Amanda Waller? By then she will be just a black lady who poses no threat at all. That's why there's that scene where Red Hulk smiles at Malekith's butt. At the moment, Red Hulk was also extremely excited, laughing, and chasing Malekith. Ha ha ha. Dark Elf, why don't you just stop running away and surrender? Psycho. You Earthlings are all psycho. Malekith finally couldn't bear it anymore and turned around to curse. It's okay that there is a god in Storybrooke. But what the hell are you, a monster? After Red Hulk discovered that he could communicate with the Dark Elves, he did not stop chasing them. The common language is very important, at least you can get more information out of them. Nick Fury didn't say anything either, so he has to be caught, right? At least I can be considered to be delivering the goods to your door now, right? So Red Hulk stopped and let Malekith run farther and farther. Malekith was still wondering in his heart, why did Red Hulk suddenly stop? The next moment, ice, fire, storm, and thunder all fell on him like crazy. In a hurry, Malekith used the black magic shield to protect his whole body. But under the powerful elemental attack, the black magic shield that Malekith had used all his life skills to maintain was shattered. Then, he fell completely in this endless attack. Cease fire! Nick Fury, who had been observing the outer defense, waved his hand, signaling the X-Men to cease fire. Icemen, Firemen, and Storm stopped immediately. I originally thought it was a difficult mission, but it turns out that I'm just here to serve as a ranged weapon. Iceman shrugged at the Fireman, but this creature called the Dark Elves is quite tough. After such an attack, it hasn't died completely yet. You think it's easy, but that's because we have the right time, right place, and right people. If you encounter this Dark Elf without support, you will most likely be killed. Storm Aurora rolled his eyes. Iceman was good in every way except that he was too proud due to his status as Omega Mutant. Judging from the combat capability alone, it is indeed good, but the combat experience is just a bunch of shit. But what Storm said is indeed correct. Malekith's miser ability is mainly due to playing away from home and his unintentional actions. If the environment is basically fair, most of the X-Men will be killed by Malekith. Okay, stop discussing this. As the leader of the X-Men this time, White Queen glared at Iceman with her charming eyes. I'm not saying anything bad about you, Drake, but can you be more steady in your actions? That's what I said. Why is it still education? Iceman's head dropped, and he complained quietly. White Queen Emma Frost's originally bohemian temperament has completely changed since she took on the role of Dean of Academic Affairs at the FBI Academy. His clothing, appearance, and daily conversation have all changed drastically. If you don't know, you would think she is the sister of Bai Yadan. But after all, he is a master of telepathy who is on par with Professor X among all the X-Men. Iceman just complained a few words, but his body was very honest and he followed the White Queen closely. Nick Fury did not intervene in this episode, but waved to the X-Men he brought with him, and then took the lead and walked towards Malekith, who looked half dead. This guy, is he still alive? The fireman who had been silent all this time suddenly muttered, it shouldn't be like the situation in horror movies, where the boss looks dead, but when the protagonists and supporting actors gather together, he will suddenly open his eyes, then wave his weapon and start killing people. But as soon as the fireman finished speaking, Malekith's eyes really opened. FK. Are you serious? Malekith was seen grinning and inserting his hand into the ground. Then a strange black sword was pulled out. Malekith greedily absorbed the power from the sword, and his physical condition recovered instantly. Then with the first strike, the black-skinned one-eyed leader was chopped into 2 pieces and could only lie on the ground struggling and screaming. The following scene was extremely bloody, with severed limbs flying everywhere, and all the people who had just ambushed Malekith, including Red Hulk, had their heads chopped off. The cruelty and brutality of the Dark Elves were fully displayed at this moment. Then Malekith threw the head away and walked deep into the military base. The strange red light kept luring him forward, and soon, he saw the true face of the red light. These are particles. Ha ha ha. Ether. I finally got TIE particles. Asgard? The 9 realms? They will all be interstellar dust that will perish in my hands. Ha 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 ha. Malekith laughed and pocketed the TIE particles. The Legend of Malekith. A great series. Bullshit. The White Queen raised a brow and removed her hand from Malekith's forehead. There was no such thing as an extreme counterkill or TIE particles. It was just that the White Queen helped to weave a perfect dream for the Dark Elf monarch before he died. Alas, when people get older, they can't bear to see things that make them die in vain. White Queen stood up and sighed. Black Braised Egg wiped the cold sweat from his head. Wow, he just used the telepathy ability to kill this Dark Elf who was obviously of a very respected status, and he still couldn't bear to watch him die in peace? You are forcing someone to close their eyes before they even intend to close them. This dream was indeed perfect, but it also consumed the last of his life. A generation of Dark Elf monarch, just like that after being beaten twice. Drowned in a dream by the White Queen. If Li Chengfeng saw this, he would probably give Malekith a thumbs up. What good luck! At least it's more dramatic than the death of Old Man Lauf, isn't it? Buzz. Buzz. Nick Fury's dedicated director's personal terminal buzzed twice, and a message came. When I opened it, I saw that it was the field agent from Fairy Tale Town, who had already finished washing the floor. Okay, we've finished our work in Fairy Tale Town, and this invasion is over. Nick Fury nodded to White Queen, then muttered to himself, Li Chengfeng told me to be careful, but, this is it. Nick Fury looked at the X-Men around him and thought of Team All-Stars who were far away in Asgard. I suddenly felt my waist was particularly stiff. At this moment, Li Chengfeng, who didn't know that Malekith was completely dead, was still staying in Asgard. To be precise, it is waiting for Odin to find a way to reconnect the 10th realm with the World Tree. After all, the 9 realms integration phenomenon appears randomly. For example, only a very small channel appears in the Angel Kingdom. Therefore, the main force of the coalition forces that invaded Asgard this time was still the Dark Elves and the Giants of Jotunheim, while the Angels accounted for less than 1/20 of the number. But this did not prevent Odin from preparing for revenge against the Angel Kingdom. Do you really think Lao Ao is a weakling? Not only did he kidnap the girl, but he also wanted to use brainwashing to make the father and daughter kill each other? If he doesn't kill Queen Angel, old Ao will be unworthy of the throne of the King of God. Well, father-in-law, I don't know if I should say something. Who the hell is your father-in-law? Odin, who was angry, finally regained his temper and glared at Li Chengfeng unhappily. If you have something to say it now. Hey, it's like this. Li Chengfeng was so shameless that he didn't take Odin's cold face seriously. He put his arm around the old man's shoulders and said, in fact, the best solution at this time is to let Angela take us back to the Angel Kingdom. I definitely know. I've fought for thousands of years. Do I need you to teach me? Odin rolled his eyes and replied, but what I want is not just to get rid of that a whole woman haven, but to bring the entire Angel Kingdom back into the 9 realms. Li Chengfeng agreed in his heart. He is truly an old fox who has lived for thousands of years. In such a family recognition situation, he can ensure that his rationality is not affected by emotions, thus giving up maximizing his interests. What is valuable in Angel Kingdom? Isn't it just an entire dimensional space with an extremely low level of development and a group of angels who are almost all soldiers? Needless to say, the former represents the resources of the entire world. The latter. Old Deng probably feels sorry for the Valkyrie who were killed by Hela back then, and plans to fill the gap left by the Valkyrie by making those angels surrender. In this way, killing Angel Queen Haven would be a matter of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It can be used for both revenge and profit. Otherwise, he would be the number 1 warmonger in the 9 realms, and our own Lord God King would have to be second. Great. Lao Deng, it's really great. If you call me Lao Deng again, I will definitely stab you with Gungnir. Chapter 137. Ever since Odin decided to counterattack the Angel Kingdom, Li Chengfeng has witnessed how efficient Asgard, the divine realm that once swept the entire universe with war, is. Especially after Odin reached a consensus with Hela, they once worked closely together, becoming the king and commander, both father and daughter and comrades in arms. Tell me the truth, do you have a nickname, Horus? Why do you think that as a god, there is such a thing as a nickname? As gods, our real names are related to divinity and divine power. Hela looked at Li Chengfeng with pity. You didn't inherit the old god status of Zidhorn, and your IQ was affected by that stupid guy, right? Does Zidhorn look like someone with low IQ in your eyes? Li Chengfeng did not comment on this. But if you think about it carefully, every one of these old gods of the earth is extremely cowardly. It does seem stupid to look 100 steps ahead before taking one step and eventually die of indecision. All we can say is that the god Eater Adam was so murderous back then that he scared all of his relatives. As the first god to die at your hands, I don't think he can be called smart. Hela shrugged, then went out of the bedroom with Li Chengfeng. The members of the star team were bored and watched the giant wolf Fenris and Li Chengfeng's demon cat Doug playing around. Although there was a huge difference in their physiques, Li Chengfeng was not surprised that the two of them could get along well. One is a divine creature, the other is a magical energy creature. Okay, dear team members, does anyone want to go to heaven? Oh, Pudding, your tone and expression right now give me a sense of the laughing killer. So sexy. Harley Quinn looked like a gangster who saw a stripper. She leaned her arm on Li Chengfeng's shoulder and raised his chin. It would be even better if there were some splashes of blood on your face. Hey, Harley, your XP system is really unique. Color embryos are not scary. Perverted perverts are scary. But what exactly do you mean by heaven? King Ada frowned. We have seen a few so-called angels along the way. Are you planning to attack their lair? This is not my decision, but the decision made by the great king of God inside. Li Chengfeng pointed to the palace gate and said with a smile, our star team is just here to watch the fun. We mainly want you to experience an interdimensional war. After all, in the future, the star team will not only cross dimensions, but also cross time to carry out missions. Li Chengfeng was not talking nonsense. Although Li Chengfeng has not mentioned the existence of the legendary squad to anyone except Harley Quinn, with whom he had met the legendary squad. And Captain Carter never mentioned to other teammates how she came here from another timeline. But Li Chengfeng had a feeling that the problem with the timeline would begin to emerge in the near future. Otherwise, he would not be able to gather team members from various nodes of the timeline in the future to form a legendary team. Just like Sarah Lance, who originally secretly went out to sea with Oliver Queen, was supposed to be stranded on Purgatory Island and then picked up by the League of Assassins. And it was at this point in time that my future self took Sarah Lance away. Originally, Sarah Lance was dispensable to the League of Assassins, but to Oliver Queen, it was the same whether Sarah was rescued by himself or the League of Assassins. The same goes for Howard Stark. I just don't know at what point in the future I will decide to form a legendary team. Moreover, what Sarah Lance said at the beginning made Li Chengfeng inexplicably entangled. She said that as the acting director, she disappeared after forming the legendary squad. What happened to my future self? It was 2 hours later when Odin, Frigga, and others appeared in front of everyone again. Angela seemed to have completely understood her identity and accepted the name that originally belonged to her. Auditrifus Odinstadaya. As Hela said, the name of a god is closely connected to divinity and godhead. Angela was indeed very strong before, but she was only slightly stronger than Thor. The reason why she was able to beat Thor and Loki into such a miserable state was mainly because of her group fight. But now that Angela had accepted her real name, her power immediately began to rise. If she fought with Thor and Loki again at this time, I'm afraid she would be enough to defeat the two brothers alone. Li Chengfeng patted Loki's shoulders sympathetically. He got into all kinds of trouble, jumped around, but in the end he was still at the bottom of the family's food chain. Miserable, Loki, miserable. Can you please stop looking at me like a poor creature like that? Loki was completely disappointed with Li Chengfeng's unconventional thinking. He definitely doesn't have any good thoughts about himself in his mind. But what to do? He can't beat him, he can't scold him, and after he had an affair with the eldest sister Hela, he was suppressed in terms of seniority. The more I think about this 250-year contract, the more I feel like I lost out. At this moment, huge amounts of Asgard's army had assembled on the square. Li Chengfeng was at the forefront of the army and saw many familiar faces. The first is Sif, who has a close relationship with Thor. The female warrior of Asgard's generation is second only to Angela, and in the comics she is Thor's biological wife. However, in the movie, Thor's emotional line focuses on Jane Foster. But this does not affect Sif's position in Thor's heart. What's more, in this universe, Thor has not yet met Jane Foster. Then there are the three warriors of Asgard, the guys who came down to Earth with Sif to support Thor in Thor, Ragnarok, and they were also the cannon fodder who were killed instantly by Hela in Thor, Ragnarok. However, in reality, these three are still very strong, but in the eyes of Hela, who is at the peak of the Heavenly Father, they are not good enough. As mentioned earlier, Volstagg, one of the three warriors of Asgard, is even qualified to pick up the ultimate universe Mjolnir. Finally, Li Chengfeng saw an acquaintance. Bald Skol Chini, nicknamed the Executioner. That's right, it's the one who was born in a cowardly way and died in a miserable way in Thor, Ragnarok. In fact, the movie still makes this character comedic and clown-like. In fact, Skol Chini the Executioner, as the child of an unknown giants of Jotunheim and an unknown Asgard goddess, is more powerful than most Asgard people. Otherwise, she wouldn't be hanging out with Enchantress and Lorelei in the comics. But now he was standing in the first position behind Heimdall. Don't think that Heimdall was mocked by Hela as a gatekeeper. But on the battlefield, he should be called by another name. God of the Dawn. In Asgard, he is definitely the number one person below level Godfather. In addition to these familiar faces, there are also many guys with strong faces, probably the strong men in the Asgard Legion. But Li Chengfeng really didn't recognize him. At this moment, everyone is waiting for Odin's order. It has been too long since they had a true full-scale attack. Ever since Odin decided to treat the Nine Realms with kindness and friendliness, they have only occasionally faced minor frictions within the Nine Realms. Who can tolerate being transformed from a large and powerful army into a group of local police officers who have to mediate everywhere? And Odin is obviously not a useless leader, otherwise the Asgard army would have no chance of setting off today. Odin and Frigga passed through the Asgard army and came to the altar. He said nothing, but raised the invincible Gungnir with one hand, and a divine light shone in his one eye. Having just experienced Odin's sleep, Odin's power and his body are at their absolute peak. Angel Kingdom is indeed a bit unlucky. If they had not reached a deal with Malekith to invade Asgard this time, or even if they had used the time of Odin's sleep to prepare to kill Odin, they would not have been counterattacked. All I can say is, it's fate. Li Chengfeng also witnessed the power of Odin. If we simply talk about the strength of combat power, the current Odin is slightly inferior to the Orange Lantern Hela or the Three Lantern Li Chengfeng. But the power of Odin not only has powerful combat capability, it also brings Odin nearly omniscient knowledge and special abilities, as well as a link with the World Tree. The small hammer dug into the gap, cutting off the connection between the Angel Kingdom and other realms. Then the sledgehammer was used to take over, and the power of Odin was used to exile the isolated Angel Kingdom. This is also the reason why Odin was able to separate the Angel Kingdom from the World Tree. Ao Dachui said, "If you can dismantle, you can rebuild, if you can break, you can erect, I can also do bricklaying." After Odin re-established the connection with the World Tree, he used the power of Odin to pull the Angel Kingdom again, allowing this dimension to take root and sprout on the World Tree again. As this process continued, all the divine creatures present felt the throbbing from the depths of the universe. That was a long-awaited thank you after the World Tree was complete. Li Chengfeng couldn't help but roll his eyes. The World Tree was also unlucky. It met Odin, the old man, and split into another dimension because of a disagreement. For the World Tree, this is like partially peeling off a person's organs and putting them aside, but the main blood vessels are still connected. Hiss. The World Tree is really generous. If he is the World Tree, he must reduce his dimension to a human form and give Odin a good beating. The 10th world has returned, and the World Tree is complete again. Odin turned around, and his magnificent armor reflected dazzling golden light. Asgard army, prepare to attack. Let the Angel Kingdom see the power of Asgard once again. As soon as the king of God Odin finished speaking, Heimdall was the first to move. Then, the Asgard army followed closely behind, crossing the long bridge and arriving at the gate of Bifrost. Heimdall inserted the Sword of Dawn into its base, and Bifrost immediately began to operate. Ever since Heimdall took over the authority of Bifrost from the previous generation of gatekeepers, he was destined to no longer be able to gallop on the battlefield under the name of the God of Dawn. When Hela looked at Heimdall, besides the constant confrontation, there was also a hint of pity. For true warriors like Hela, they can no longer step onto the battlefield. What a pity! But Heimdall had already gotten used to all this over the past few thousand years. He turned the Sword of Dawn and found the 10th realm, which was originally a blank, on the star disk representing the coordinates of the world tree. Then, Bifrost, on! Odin and Frigga stepped into the Bifrost without any hesitation. Then came Hela, Angela, Thor and Loki. Li Chengfeng and the Star Squad were not in a hurry to go in, but followed at the end of the Asgard army. This scene is about the revenge of the King of God and Asgard. Those of you who are just here for show should not be too interested in the scene and should keep a low profile. As they were about to walk onto Bifrost, Heimdall suddenly spoke up and said to Li Chengfeng, "Old god from Midgard. How did you convince the King of God Odin to agree to bring the 10th world back to the world tree? Although I have the status of an old god, I am indeed a human being." Li Chengfeng shrugged at Heimdall, "Your question is very simple. I brought back another daughter of Odin and gave Odin another goal. How many years have you not seen such a heroic Odin Bolson?" After saying that, Li Chengfeng called the members of the star team and entered Bifrost. The second time they rode Bifrost, the star team was obviously much calmer than the first time. After all, once the novelty of Bifrost wears off, it will be just like riding any familiar means of transportation. The entire journey took about the same time as the journey from Earth to Asgard, but because I chatted with Heimdall for a few more words, when the star team set foot on the land of the Angel Kingdom, Odin and his family had already led a large force to rush towards the Angel Kingdom's base camp. So urgent. Li Chengfeng muttered something, but he could understand it. The culprit who kidnapped their daughter for more than 2,000 years was waiting for them in the Angel Palace in the distance. Not to mention Odin, even the seemingly gentle and kind Frigga looked bloodthirsty when she went out to fight. Li Chengfeng has no interest in getting involved in the feud between this family. No matter how powerful Queen Angel is, she is not as powerful as this family of gods. Well, dear team members, it's time for us to take care of our own affairs. After seeing that everyone had gotten used to the environment of Angel Kingdom, Li Chengfeng gave instructions to everyone. Just like Odin, in addition to resolving the long-standing feud with the Angel Queen Haven, he also wanted to gain benefits from the almost undeveloped dimension of the Angel Kingdom. Li Chengfeng will definitely have to get involved. He had no interest in the Angel clan, as they were just divine creatures whose female members could reproduce asexually. Judging from their habit of stabbing Asgard in the back for no reason, this clan is not a group of good guys and girls. Li Chengfeng doesn't want to have this kind of time bomb under his command. On the contrary, Li Chengfeng is more interested in the many resources in this dimension. So after saying that, he summoned the orange lantern furnace. Yemengard, who was dozing off, immediately woke up. "Dad, Dad!" Li Chengfeng felt very good about having a new daughter who was a lamp beast. After all, strictly speaking, Yemengard is the product of the spiritual connection between him and Hela, so there is nothing wrong with the word dad. "Yemengard, can you do Dad a favor?" "What? Help?" Sure. Yemengard loves helping his dad the most." The little girl's voice reached Li Chengfeng's ears, and he couldn't help but smile like an old father. This cuteness is so reassuring that it is much better than the shark with kidney deficiency and the bull with a clamp. After cricketing the other two lantern beasts, Li Chengfeng reached out and touched the Yemengard jumping on his shoulder. "Help Dad check if there is anything valuable in this dimension." The lamp beast symbolizes greed and has a natural perception of valuables. Although there is suspicion of employing child labor, but if you don't pay them, it doesn't count as employment. So the shameless Li Chengfeng decided to let his daughter, the lamp beast, play a guest role in the legendary treasure hunting mouse. Chapter 138. Although Li Chengfeng didn't know how big the angel dimension was, he was afraid it wouldn't be much smaller than Asgard. Yemengard let out a cheer and went underground. Then he traveled throughout the angel dimension at an astonishing speed. Moreover, his originally small body has grown longer and longer over time, and he really lives up to the name Hela that his mother gave him. Yemengard, the giant python. As for the reason for the enlargement, Li Chengfeng could guess it by using the dead skin on his toes. It's nothing but greed at work. On the way to treasure hunting, he unconsciously devoured the natural forces of this dimension. When he appeared in front of Li Chengfeng again, Yemengard had become extremely huge, and his head alone was much taller than Hulk. "No, this is the little thing that just got into the ground." Harley Quinn stretched out her slender little finger and gestured, "It's a little nose that's not much longer than my finger." "Calling someone a little nose, is that polite of you?" Ada Wong rolled her eyes at Harley Quinn, "It's obviously a big long worm. Is this what they call a lantern beast?" Captain Carter looked at Yemengard with interest. "Spectral energy creatures, they are truly magical. Hulk likes Snake. They're friends. Hulk is the only member of the Lantern Group in the FBI besides Li Chengfeng and Hela. Although he is a Red Lantern, he has a natural liking for the lantern beasts formed by pure spectral energy. Don't worry if he's a little snake or a big worm. You're all uncles and aunts. Why are you picking on my little snake? Be careful or I'll sue you for racial discrimination." As Li Chengfeng stepped forward, Yemengard immediately came up to him happily and dived into the lamp. The huge amounts of its body seemed to be siphoned away, and in the blink of an eye, the huge amounts of the earthly python disappeared, leaving only Yemengard, belly up, digesting the food in the stove. "How's it going? Did you find anything? Report to Dad. There are so many good things in this place." Hearing Li Chengfeng's voice, Yemengard immediately turned around and said happily, "I will mark the locations of the mineral deposits in the entire dimension now, and then share them with Dad through the orange lantern ring." Then Li Chengfeng felt the orange light ring on his ring finger was slightly hot, and the next moment, the underground view of the entire angel dimension came into his mind, with all kinds of precious resources marked by Yemengard on it. The Snake team has made great contributions. Yemengard blinked his cute big eyes, with an expression of "please praise me" on his face. Yemengard is awesome, he's really Daddy's little cotton-padded jacket. Compared to the Ion Shark and the Blood Bowl. Yemengard asked expectantly, "Is Yemengard better than them?" Li Chengfeng was not surprised that Yemengard knew the existence of the other two lamp beasts. It would be strange if he couldn't sense it. However, the tone of competing for favor is actually asking Li Chengfeng, "Am I your most beloved child? Is this newborn child jealous of other lamp beasts?" It seems that Yemengard is not only greedy for energy, but also for emotions. Ahem. How can kidney deficiency shark and clip bull compare with us, Yemengard? Daddy definitely loves you the most. After giving Yemengard a satisfactory answer, Li Chengfeng began to focus on sorting out the coordinates of these precious resources. Although Yemengard knew how valuable these resources were, he was unable to identify what they were specifically due to his limited knowledge. Li Chengfeng looked at words such as like home, metal that sings with me, stone that is too hard to chew, and this thing looks like it can be eaten. With all these labels, even if Li Chengfeng had great ability, he couldn't guess what his daughter had found. At this time, the role of the Green Lantern Ring becomes apparent. As the universe's official encyclopedia, as long as Li Chengfeng lets the green light of his will come into contact with these things, he can learn their names and functions through the Green Light's database. So under the surprised gaze of everyone in the Star team, Li Chengfeng opened 4 portals. The first portal. Li Chengfeng didn't even need the Green Lantern Ring to tell what it was. No wonder it's like home, isn't this URU metal? There was only a small mountain of URU metal left in Odin's treasure house, and in the underground of Angel's dimension. It actually contains nearly 100 times the total amount. And there is no trace of excavation at all. From this we can see that the civilization process in the Angel dimension is really too backward, and their minds are full of fighting and killing. No wonder Angel's scientific name is War Angel, this name is really not wrong at all. If they had developed other industries a little bit, with their united fighting power, they would not have been beaten by Asgard to the point where they had to kidnap other people's girls to threaten them. This may be the disadvantage of a purely matriarchal society. It is a tragedy to have a treasure mountain but not know it. After determining the location of the huge amounts of URU metal ore veins, Li Chengfeng came to the second portal. It's what's called Sing Along With Me metal. This time, Li Chengfeng's blind spot in knowledge was indeed touched upon. But it doesn't matter, the Great Green Lantern Encyclopedia is here to help. Li Chengfeng materialized a scanner with green light of will, aimed it at the metal cross-section and began to scan it. Drip. Drop. Scanning completed. Analyzing. Analysis completed. Identified as Yaka metal. Under the watchful eyes of Team Star, the scanner gave the answer. Only after hearing the name did Li Chengfeng understand. So this is it. Yaka metal is indeed a precious metal in the Marvel universe, but it is not particularly famous. In the movie, Star-Lord's dad, definitely is his good blue-skinned dad. Yondu's arrow is made of Aka metal. Although its hardness is not as good as top-grade metals such as vibranium and adamantium, it is quite sufficient. It is extremely sensitive to sound and can produce resonance and resonance. With the help of a special frequency amplifier, it can accurately manipulate Yaka metal creations. Although this metal doesn't have any high performance, in the movie it is just used to efficiently clear out the mobs. But that was with only one arrow. The total amount of Yaka metal in front of us is even several times that of the URU metal vein just now. Compared to URU metal, Yaka metal is more suitable for arming elite agents who are ordinary people. The mineral content of this vein is enough to arm all the elite agents, with more than half left. Well, let's just send the extra part back to the general administration of the Republic. After all, it's my hometown. How could I forget such a good thing that I could get for free? Even if you are in the angel dimension, you should not forget to contribute to the construction of the Republic. At this moment, Li Chengfeng felt that the red lantern ring on his hand was brighter. Chapter 139. Ah! Buzz. Oh, you're really responsive. The members of Team Star were like bumpkins who had never seen the world. They gathered in front of the second portal and took turns making sounds to trigger resonance in the Yaka metal. Especially Hulk, his shout almost made a large piece of Yaka metal resonate and break away from the vein directly. The result was that they were covered with broken stones. Li Chengfeng looked with disdain at this group of guys whose mental age had dropped suddenly, and walked to the third portal on his own. This place is marked by Yemen Guard as rock too hard to chew. Neither URU metal nor Yaka metal received this evaluation, which shows that at least in terms of hardness, it far exceeds these two metals. But it is obviously not vibranium or adamantium, let alone adamantium. The reserve of this stone is not large, about the same as the URU metal in Odin's treasure house. Try to attach the green light of will to your hand and touch it, and then you will clearly feel the kinetic energy and some energy of the green light of will being absorbed by this stone. And it was at the moment when the energy was absorbed that Li Chengfeng, relying on the perception of dark magic and origin magic power, sensed a strange aura. Dark, mysterious, scary. Even Sithon's old god status resonated with it. It's the dark dimension. Li Chengfeng frowned, then picked up the scanner to scan. But after a period of analysis, the conclusion he reached made Li Chengfeng's eyes widen. Dagon Stone. This thing can be regarded as the most powerful metal in the entire Marvel universe, and also the rarest metal. The biggest reason is that it comes from the dark dimension. It is formed by combining special substances from the dark dimension with vibranium, and possesses the advantages of both. Not only can it absorb and release kinetic energy like vibranium, it can also absorb and release antimatter energy. It is no exaggeration to say that it is indestructible. Moreover, Dagon Stone has the power to resist magic attacks and mental attacks within a certain range, and also has the function of self-repair. Perfect and flawless are definitely not boasting when applied to Dagon Stone, but rather realistic. Even in Avengers 4, some people speculated that Thanos' large sword was made of Dagon Stone. But this claim has never been confirmed. Li Chengfeng was surprised, but also a little worried. After all, Dagon Stone is a metal that is deeply bound to the dark dimension. Since it appears in the Angel Kingdom, it can only mean that the Dark Dimension once had a connection with the Angel Kingdom. But even if there is, it is probably a dimensional loophole similar to the Nine Realms integration phenomenon, which accidentally connects two dimensions. The Angel Kingdom may have originally had vibranium, and then it happened to come into contact with the special matter of the Dark Dimension, which accidentally formed Dagon Stone. Why are you so sure? Because if it is really Dormammu that invades, the angels in the Angel Kingdom will definitely not be their match. And the fourth portal is finally not a metal section. It was a ball of liquid metal the size of a human head, suspended in the void. This thing. Li Chengfeng actually recognizes it. Galaxy glaze is the layer that covers the body of the silver glider. The liquid metal in front of us is actually the raw material of galactic glaze. The real galactic glaze is formed by combining the power of the planet Devourer with it. But let's just call it Galaxy Glaze to save the trouble of thinking of another name. No wonder Yemen Guard thinks this thing is edible, because Galactic Glaze can absorb and integrate any energy, even the power of the universe. As an energy creature, this is something that can be eaten. Although without the power of Galactus, it is not possible to make someone a silver glider through the Galactic Glaze. However, the power of the original Galaxy Glaze is also quite strong, and it can even stimulate human potential and strength. At this moment, Li Chengfeng had already thought about who would be the best choice to hand over Galaxy Glaze to. After putting the galaxy glaze directly into the pocket space, Li Chengfeng called on everyone to start the excavation work. Isn't it a bit too much trouble to just hollow out the rocks around the ore vein and dig out the powerful metal originally? Everyone looked at Li Chengfeng with a sad look as if to say, you are using a group of elite agents as miners. Except Hulk. Hulk is such a good boy. Li Chengfeng was so moved that he almost cried. Puff. Angel Queen Haven held the sword across her chest, but ultimately failed to withstand the fierce blow from Gungnir, and the sword broke instantly. At the same time, all her ribs were broken. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and the Queen Angel, who was originally majestic and charming, now roared like a hysterical trapped beast. But instead of attacking Odin, who knocked her to the ground, he roared at the other man. Damn it! Fernande, you traitor! How dare you betray me? The Fernande she mentioned is a high-level angel from the Angel Kingdom and a military and political commander under her. When the Asgard army was approaching the city, she opened the energy shield protecting the city without hesitation, then turned against them and led the Asgard gods into the palace of Queen Angel. Without her, even if all of Asgard's high-end combat forces were deployed, it would be impossible to capture the war fortress with a powerful energy shield in such a short time. It's all because of her. Angel Queen Haven's eyes were bloodshot. The revenge she had planned for many years fell through because of her own people's betrayal. It was like a joke. She hated this traitor more than Odin. But the traitor Ferdinand looked directly into the eyes of the former queen, without any shame or regret, and was extremely frank, as if he had never done anything treacherous. Hearing the roar of Angel Queen Haven, Fernande snorted coldly. Betrayal? You actually told me betrayal? As your right-hand man, I carry out every one of your tasks perfectly. But you actually sacrificed an angel's life just to cooperate with that beast Malekith. Just because he told you that he had never experienced the feeling of killing an angel. You asked all the angels to draw lots, but the one who won the lottery was Anamuni, that's my love. Fernande's eyes were red with anger. Finally, driven by anger, he drew out his long sword, leaped towards Haven, stabbed the sword into his heart, twisted it, crushed the heart and pulled it out. The last sword beheads. From the moment you gave up the life of an ordinary angel for your own selfish desires, you have already betrayed the entire tribe. Haven, you are the traitor. After saying that, Fernande picked up Haven's head, turned around, and knelt on one knee. Great is the King of God. This is the sincerity of the angel family. Chapter 140. Odin never thought that this time the battle would be resolved so easily by sending out the entire army. It can even be said that there was no resistance along the way. All the angels witnessed that Malekith killed the angel Anamn, who had drawn the lot, in an extremely cruel way in front of them. So, Queen Angel has lost the support of the people, and every angel is afraid that they will become the next Anamuni. If we want to completely eliminate this panic, then there is only one way, to make Queen Angel disappear. After talking with Ferdinand, Odin learned that even if the Asgard army had not arrived at the city today, she would lead most of the angels to revolt and fight a decisive battle with the Angel Queen's most elite war angel regiment. Definitely, the so-called most elite army was like paper under Hela's hands. However, Fernande did not feel the slightest bit of regret for their deaths. They are Queen Angel's sharpest killing tools, and each of them has angel's blood on their hands. Fortunately, the Asgard army arrived, so that the angels who were originally preparing to participate in the revolution did not suffer any casualties. After offering Haven's head, Ferdinand stood up and said to Odin in a dignified manner, "Let us free ourselves from the hands of the tyrant." Odin calmly looked at the military and political leader with his one eye. His expression was indifferent but his eyes were full of determination. After a long time, under the gaze of the Asgard gods, Odin suddenly showed a kind and benevolent smile. Just as he has maintained the image of a benevolent emperor for thousands of years. Child, are the angels willing to move to Asgard? What? Fernande was stunned and asked in disbelief, "What you just said is, let the angels move to Asgard." To be honest, after killing Queen Angel, Ferdinand was already prepared to pay the price for defeat. For example, the whole tribe was enslaved. But the King of God, who once washed the world tree with blood and tears, actually let them move into Asgard? Wouldn't that make them true Asgardians? That's right, move to Asgard. Odin repeated again without getting tired of it. From now on, there will no longer be the angels in the Angel Kingdom, only the winged people in Asgard. All of them will be under the command of the winged Queen Angela. How about that? How? It's such a bargain. For the Angel Kingdom, a relatively wild dimension among the 10 realms, Asgard is an unattainable dream and the promised land in people's minds. And the one who manages them is none other than Angela, with whom they used to live day and night. It is equivalent to a township in Kong province collectively obtaining a household registration in the imperial capital, and then the direct leaders remain the original leadership team. Is this the treatment for the defeated? Then they are willing to be defeated 100 times again. Definitely, this is not without cost. Please go ahead. Fernande, as a veteran of the Angel Kingdom, you have fought with Asgard before. You should remember that Asgard once had a powerful army called Valkyrie, right? Yes, I once faced off against Brunhild. I remember she was called Valkyrie among the Valkyries. They have all died in the battle. I hope that the Winged Clan will rebuild the Valkyrie army. As he spoke, Odin lifted Gungnir and motioned for Fernando to kneel on one knee. Fernande did so and felt the body of Gungnir's gun lightly touch her shoulders. Then, a great power from Odin suddenly appeared in his body. Fernande of the Feathered People, in the name of Odin and the World Tree, I grant you the title of Valkyrie. Valkyrie, the title of the Valkyrie leader, has existed for many generations. Even Lorelei, who is now half dead in prison, once served as a Valkyrie for a period of time. And now, Odin bestowed Fernande with this name that represents ability and glory, which made the angel military and political leader who surrendered with his entire clan burst into tears of gratitude. Hela, who was watching all this happening, suddenly felt. Your father is always your father. This old Deng's method of killing one group and then winning over another is really ingrained in his bones. Directly make the Angel clan disappear in name only and become the living force of Asgard. If she were allowed to choose, maybe on a whim, there would be no angels left in the world. It's just that then it will not be in the nominal sense, but in the physical sense. Hela couldn't help but start to reflect. As a conqueror, must you fight to the end of the universe? And Angela, who had been standing by from beginning to end, finally breathed a sigh of relief at the moment. She is not an emotionless monster. The Angel Kingdom is where she grew up, and she cannot bear to watch the Angel clan perish. But she really didn't expect that Odin would actually lift it high and put it down gently. Not only did he allow himself to lead the angels, who were renamed the Winged People, but he also allowed them to migrate to Asgard. I don't actually have much affection for the father I just met, but that doesn't stop me from having a little more respect for him in my heart. But letting you move to Asgard does not mean giving up this former Angel Kingdom. Odin changed the subject and continued, except for war, the Angel Kingdom is very backward in all other aspects, and the level of resource development is extremely low. I understand what you mean. Fernande nodded. I have detected the rare mineral veins in the Angel dimension, but Queen Angel has never given me the manpower to dig. I can give you the coordinate map of the entire dimension. Exchange the old house in your hometown for a new one in the city, it's a sure win. Odin was very satisfied. Fernande had very high IQ and EQ, much higher than Haven, whose mind was filled with war, plunder, and revenge. But when Odin and the Asgard army dug tunnels leading to various mineral veins and walked down with great interest, they found a huge amount of irregular holes instead of the mineral veins that were supposed to be hidden there. And not just one, but all the precious mineral deposits disappeared. On the contrary, common minerals such as gold, silver, copper, and iron were not even touched. As a level godfather, Odin actually felt his blood pressure rising. What's going on? How come there is nothing valuable left? There was a hint of confusion in Odin's single eye. As the god with the highest attainments in magic and witchcraft present, Frigga discovered the highlight at this moment. There are many auras emanating from these holes. Frigga closed her eyes and perceived carefully. Dark magic, origin magic power, teleportation magic, and the familiar breath of the old gods and the energy of the emotional spectrum. Before Frigga finished speaking, a soft laugh suddenly sounded in the huge amounts of space. The sound was not loud, but it echoed in the space and was exceptionally clear. Everyone looked at the person who was laughing, only to find that it was Hela, who was the most serious. Seeing this, Odin couldn't help but ask, "My son, why are you laughing?" Hela didn't bother to hide the slight curl of her lips. "I think of happy things." "What's the happy news?" "My Queen of Gods has given birth to a child." Chapter 141. In an upscale bar in Los Angeles. Is it really okay for us to just run away like this? Harley Quinn sat next to Li Chengfeng, blowing bubbles into the soda water in her cup out of boredom. It's not working time anymore, why are you only drinking soda water? When did you change your personality? Li Chengfeng frowned, a little confused. With your personality, you should at least drink a beer, right? Oh, pudding, although I am a lunatic, I am also a doctor. Drinking during my period? Do I look like someone who likes to make trouble for myself? I really can't say that. Li Chengfeng shrugged, which resulted in a barrage of punches. It's like a cat scratch, it doesn't hurt at all, but it's a little itchy. Taking a look at the bar that they had booked, Li Chengfeng couldn't help but stretch. After all, with the presence of Hulk, the other guests would have fled long ago. This could cause trouble for the American government. But it won't be too troublesome. After all, his brothers and sisters from Team Star had just served as minors for him, so it was only right for him to take them on a short vacation. Who made Li Chengfeng in such a good mood now? While Odin and the Asgard gods were still confronting the Angel Kingdom, Li Chengfeng directly took away all the undeveloped rare metals. Especially the huge amount of URU metal, which filled all his pockets at that time, and he even had to rub it several times before he could take it all away. Li Chengfeng felt refreshed when he thought about how upset Odin would be when he saw the devastated angel dimension. Even if he can't see it. After all, as a potential son-in-law, it would be fine for him to deal with the invasion in Asgard, but it was not within his obligation to march to the Kingdom of Angel. The Star team simply went to a dimension rich in minerals to mine resources. Who can find fault with him? Li Chengfeng did not take away Odin's treasure house, which was considered to be giving enough face to his future father-in-law. Bloody hell! I don't remember my bar being booked out today. Just then, a white man in a sexy suit and with a British accent walked in from the door and claimed to be the owner of the bar. Behind him was a hot, wheat-skinned beauty, but from her expression and movements, it was clear that this beauty was definitely a tough character. When Li Chengfeng turned around and looked at the two people, he felt dizzy. He ignored the person who came and waved to King Ada instead. Ada, I forgot to check just now, what is the name of this bar? Lux, the best bar around here. FK, really? Li Chengfeng drank the remaining whiskey in the glass expressionlessly, then changed his expression without any hesitation, walked up to the bar owner with a smile and shook hands with him. Nice to meet you, Mr. Lucifer Morningstar. Wow, you know me. Lucifer raised his eyebrows, and his slight complaints were instantly replaced by curiosity. It seems, you also want to get help, right? Help? No, you think too much. Li Chengfeng smiled, we just came here to drink, but it's all because of our big guy that we scared away the other guests in the bar. As he said this, he pointed at Hulk who was jumping awkwardly on the dance floor. This is such a big guy. Lucifer looked at Hulk in surprise, but quickly brought the topic back to Li Chengfeng, but I'm more interested in you. Tell me, what do you want most in this life? In an instant, Li Chengfeng felt an unrivaled power that made him want to reveal his deepest desires. But it was only for a moment, and the next moment, the feeling disappeared. Li Chengfeng understood that because of the protection of the old god's status and emotional spectrum, Lucifer's ability could not affect him. At least for now, Lucifer, who had given up all his powers just to live a carefree life in the world, could not be influenced. About this, you really can't influence me, dear Lucifer Morningstar, or... Li Chengfeng leaned forward slightly and whispered in the other's ear, Samael. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Chengfeng felt a burst of tearing air sounds suddenly passing by his ears, so he turned on the green light without hesitation and transformed into a shark head as big as a fist, biting the strangely shaped dagger. Be careful, Mazekin. A dagger made of hell metal can really hurt me. Looking at the expressions of the master and servant in front of him, Li Chengfeng felt a little proud. Very good, that will calm them both down for now. I know you may have a lot to ask me. Li Chengfeng walked towards the booth in the corner of the bar, but you have to believe that we really just want to find a bar to drink today. After sitting down, Li Chengfeng looked at Lucifer leisurely. I can't help but sigh in my heart. Among the strongest people under existence such as Almighty God and OA, the complete Lucifer can definitely be ranked among the top 5. He possesses half of God's power and the power to shape all things. This is no joke. But the guy in front of him with doubts in his eyes is just a street urchin with endless life and regenerative healing factor. Definitely, taking back the power that belongs to him is just a matter of his own thought. However, since Lucifer hasn't had enough fun in the human world, he will definitely not return in his complete form. Lucifer stared at Li Chengfeng for a long time, then suddenly relaxed all over, leaned back on the sofa, and spoke in a lazy tone, "Okay, tell me quickly, what medium did my father use to create you? Is it willpower? Did he ask you to pass on a message to me or to urge me to return to hell? Lucifer, I would just kill him." "Hey, Maisie, you are too impatient, and most importantly..." Lucifer pressed Mazekin's shoulders, "You are no match for him." Li Chengfeng's mouth twitched. This guy really only lives in his own world. Listening to people talking is so stupid. I have nothing to do with God. It's Amenadiel's job to urge you back to hell. But now that I'm here, I really want to ask for your help on something. Really? You're not angel or something? I am a Republican. It seems that the Almighty God cannot reach out to us Republicans, right? That's true. Lucifer nodded. In that case, let's put aside all the unlucky topics and talk about what you want me to do for you. Lucifer quickly accepted Li Chengfeng's statement, or rather, he was not interested in the specific situation. He just enjoys the thrill of playing with the world. So Li Chengfeng did not hesitate and took out the dark book from his pocket space. I want to know, who is the soul in this book? Chapter 142. Lucifer reached out and took the dark book, then opened it with some curiosity. Ever since Zidhorn's soul dissipated and absorbed the TIE particles, the original property of the dark book that tempted humans to fall has disappeared completely. Definitely, even if that characteristic still exists, can it still be used to trouble the king of hell? Even the word fall came into being because of him. Isn't this the dark book of the old gods song? Oh? And there are TIE particles? You are quite capable. Wait, what's your name? Li Chengfeng. Oh, Li Chengfeng, what an easy to remember name for a republic. But I remember that there shouldn't be any souls in the dark god book at the beginning. That's why I want the all-knowing angel to help me solve my confusion because I have no clue at all. All right. As Lucifer spoke, he spread out the dark book on the table. Then he stretched out a hand, and black ripples appeared on the surface of the dark book. Lucifer directly inserted his hand into the dark book. It's like reaching into a box and feeling around. After a moment, it was pulled out with a sudden force, and a human-shaped soul was pulled out. There is just a black line that closely connects it to the dark book. But there was only a vague outline and it was impossible to see what his face looked like. Not only Li Chengfeng showed a puzzled expression when he saw the soul in the dark book, even Lucifer was also a little confused. It's strange that even I can't see his identity clearly. All his soul information has been erased, but there are still some clues left. Clue? Yes, this soul comes from the future. Lucifer said firmly. Hearing this, Li Chengfeng felt even more confused. From the future? Then why did he enter the dark book of the present? The soul that had been sleeping was forcibly dug out from the deepest part of the dark book by Lucifer, and its body shook violently, as if it had just woken up. What the hell is this for? Dark God Book, you are finally awake. Li Chengfeng thought about it and decided to call him Dark God Book. Then he smiled and said, look at who this person is in front of you. Who is that guy? Damn it. Why is it Lucifer? UBD. Lucifer narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he had a high tolerance for unintentional offenses from mortals, no one could just laugh off such named insults. Mesa beside him jumped up and was about to use the hell dagger to give the dark book a fierce blow. Seeing that the situation was not good, the dark book floated directly behind Li Chengfeng. Brother Feng. Father Feng. Please save my life. He didn't need to say anything. When Mesa saw that the person blocking his way was Li Chengfeng, who could have easily stopped him just now, he frowned and withdrew his attack. If he was just a little stronger, she would definitely try her hand with Li Chengfeng. But Lucifer said that he was no match for his opponent, which meant that the gap between them was extremely large. Can you keep your mouth shut, UBD? Li Chengfeng glared at the Book of Darkness. Lucifer didn't take it seriously. If he really wanted to crush a soul, Lucifer would treat it like a game even now. Ahem. I was really scared. As soon as awakening came, there was a huge amount of devil faces in front of me. Who wouldn't be scared? The tone of the dark book also clearly revealed its guilty conscience. But Lucifer was a little surprised when he heard this. You can actually see my devil face. As Lucifer spoke, he revealed his true appearance as a devil. Fiery red skin, no hair, and eyes that look like endless hell. Even Li Chengfeng, a time traveler, felt a little uncomfortable when he saw this scene. Too weird and grotesque. But it only appeared for a moment before turning back into its original sexy handsome face. Then he stood up and walked upstairs to his residence. There is definitely something wrong with his identity. If you want to know who he is, you have to go to the future. A trip to the future. Yes, it's probably around the 31st century. After leaving Lux Bar, Li Chengfeng and his teammates played on the beach in Los Angeles for 2 more days. On the 3rd day, when they were lying on the private beach they rented and looking at the stars, a rainbow suddenly streaked across the sky and got closer and closer. It's Bifrost. After waiting for all people and things to land, it dissipated. What caught my eye were the long-lost 3 Asgard siblings. An Airbus. To be precise, it should be called Kaze. My queen of gods, you are really amazing. You didn't even care about the Kaze and just ran away with your men. Hey, isn't this too much trouble? Li Chengfeng stood up and came to Hela. Take her hand and give her a gentle kiss. Welcome back to your kingdom, my honorable lord of Midgard, Hela. Li Chengfeng knew that Hela always fell for this trick. But their behavior was despised by Thor and Loki on the side. How shameless to pull and tug in public. Li Chengfeng, I don't care if you flirt with my eldest sister, but can you not do it in front of us? It's really as embarrassing as waking up in the middle of the night and catching my parents being intimate. Li Chengfeng rolled his eyes. These 2 brothers-in-law are becoming more and more annoying to me. By the way, why did you guys come back after so many days? Hearing Li Chengfeng's question, Loki rolled his eyes. Good fellow, you still dare to ask? Don't you know what a good deed you have done? What did I do? I just followed your Asgard army to the Angel Kingdom, and then I found it boring and left. Li Chengfeng smiled maliciously, you don't want us to be free thugs for Asgard, do you? That's a different price. You didn't act as thugs, but you got all the benefits. Stop, just tell me if Odin is unhappy. Not only is he unhappy, his face has been darker than the bottom of a pot these days. Then you feel refreshed. Loki was choked by Li Chengfeng's words. TNND, it's true. Every time I see Odin's black face these days, I feel unexpectedly relieved. That's right. You are now in cahoots with the FBI. Li Chengfeng put his arm around Loki's shoulders and tempted him with benefits. How about getting you a pair of daggers with the good stuff we got from the angel dimension this time? You metal and Gadagon stone, supplemented with Yaka metal. Bribing my brother-in-law is a professional. If you mention something else, Loki might not take it to heart. But if you say, use all kinds of precious materials to make him a pair of daggers, then he is not sleepy anymore. Chapter 143. 3 days later, FBI headquarters. War meeting room. Nick Fury and Professor X's black and white eggs are combined to receive a visit from Area 51, also known as the Sky Eye Society. Sitting opposite the black and white eggs was Amanda Waller, who had just met Nick Fury not long ago. Behind her, there are still her 2 capable men, Deathstroke and Punisher. Okay Waller, I've already explained to you clearly what happened at Area 51 last time. You don't have the authority. Nick Fury, I'm not here for that damn alien outside Area 51. Nick Fury was interrupted by Amanda Waller just as he was speaking. He couldn't help but frown. If it wasn't for Malekith, the Dark Elf, then what was it for? Although Nick Fury never liked Amanda Waller's style of doing things, he had to admit that Amanda Waller was an absolute doer and would never do anything meaningless. Is there a problem that you, Sky Eye, can't solve on your own? Why are you asking the FBI to solve it? Nick Fury let out a long breath, and then his one eye revealed a scrutinizing look. Could it be that you have a problem similar to the TIE particles? No, TIE particles are the only ones. Amanda Waller shook her head. I came to the FBI to seek cooperation for the safety of the entire America. Amanda Waller had already said this, and Nick Fury could only suppress his doubts and listen to what was going on. Please tell me in detail. Hey, Nick Fury, do you remember the Raccoon City incident? Amanda Waller's words brought Nick Fury's thoughts back to 7 years ago. That was his 3rd year as director of the America Bureau. This is also the first year that the biochemical crisis broke out in Raccoon City. At first, the local police station received reports that there were beast attacks around Raccoon City. Since there are indeed a lot of pristine forests around Raccoon City, it is not surprising that there is beast. But they all know the consequences. That was actually the spread of the T-virus and zombies everywhere. By the time the local police and American authorities realized something was wrong and called the FBI for emergency help, it was already too late. In the end, despite the FBI's best efforts, they were able to save only a dozen survivors. That's a whole city. And King Ada was one of the survivors who were rescued. At that time, Ada Wong was not yet a level 4 elite agent of the FBI, but a mercenary who could be employed by any party. Nick Fury saw her potential from the beginning, so he offered to recruit her after she recovered from her injury. I thought there would be some tug-of-war, but unexpectedly, the beautiful and mysterious Ada Wong accepted the recruitment without any hesitation. He then became an expert in dealing with biological and chemical terrorist incidents in the FBI. It was not until he became Li Chengfeng's adjutant that he stopped dealing with biological and chemical incidents with large and small file sizes. Definitely, Raccoon City is a city with a population of over 100,000. Nick Fury shook his head, but after all these years, Raccoon City has been rebuilt. Although the population is not as large as before, it is still thriving. If I had listened to you and used nuclear weapons to raise Raccoon City, it would be a dead place now. Once upon a time, Nick Fury and Amanda Waller often collaborated with each other, and were even considered good friends because of their same skin color. But the two had huge amounts of differences on how to deal with the follow-up issues of Raccoon City. Amanda Waller believes that it should be razed to the ground with nuclear bombs. Nick Fury, on the other hand, believes that a mopping-up operation should be carried out by an organized military force after taking protective measures. In the end, Nick Fury suppressed and rejected Amanda Waller's proposal because of the special nature of the FBI. But precisely because this proposal was rejected, the American Army entered Raccoon City with the cooperation of FBI agents and actually successfully rescued hundreds of survivors throughout the city. This result also caused Amanda Waller, who proposed the nuclear bomb-raising method, to suffer the consequences, resulting in Amanda Waller being abandoned and transferred to Area 51. I'm not here to argue with you about who was right and who was wrong between us. Amanda Waller shook her head calmly, not wanting to suffer any loss because of this matter. Ever since I was transferred to Area 51 and established the Eye of the Sky, I have been paying attention to Raccoon City. Now, some new situations have emerged in Raccoon City. Nick Fury's breathing hitched when he heard this. Another bioterror incident in Raccoon City. If there are no accidents, yes, but it should not be the T-virus, because after preliminary investigation, no zombies or bows mutated by the T-virus have appeared. The implication is, it could be a new virus. What exactly is going on? Nick Fury asked in a deep voice. Right now, the people in Raccoon City are in a very strange state. They are no different from ordinary people during the day, but at night, their personalities begin to become manic and irritable, and they are extremely eager for love and family affection. If they cannot get emotional satisfaction, they will start to kill each other in a bloody way. But no matter how badly they are injured, they will not die. They will still recover in the daytime and forget what happened at night. Since I said they are desperate for love and family affection, they will warmly invite strangers to join their families. Amanda Waller frowned, then took out a statistical data. About 20,000 outsiders are trapped in Raccoon City. Professor X said nothing, but after seeing Nick Fury's embarrassed expression, he could only pat him on the shoulder. Fury, it's time to mobilize the team. It seems that we have to ask them to take action now. Who is on standby at the special team station now? Phil Coulson's team, Deadpool, Green Arrow, and Phil Coulson are on standby. The All-Stars team, Li Chengfeng, Ada Wong, and Harley Quinn are on standby. Nick Fury nodded. In fact, he just wanted to know whether Li Chengfeng was free. Then he took out the director's special personal terminal and played a video to Li Chengfeng. Yo! What's up, bro? How do you have time to play videos for me? Do you have a mission? Harley, believe me, your legs are almost as long as Ada's, you can really handle her boots. What the hell are you doing at the base, BD? Can you give some guidance on how the team members dress? FK it. Never mind. I have something urgent to deal with. Let's go to the operations meeting room with everyone on standby at the base. After saying that, he hung up the video. 5 minutes later, facing Amanda Waller's look as if she had seen a ghost, a portal appeared out of nowhere in the operations conference room. Li Chengfeng and Phil Coulson brought all the standby members into the operations meeting room. After taking a look at Amanda Waller, who couldn't even close her mouth, Li Chengfeng smiled at Nick Fury. Are there visitors today? It looks like something serious is going on. Chapter 144. What the hell is this? Is teleportation magic rare? Nonsense. I've only seen this kind of portal in those bullshit sci-fi TV series. Actually, science fiction dramas aren't completely nonsense. Li Chengfeng shrugged. The most ridiculous ones are actually romance dramas. Amanda Waller naturally had no intention of saying anything more to Li Chengfeng, but looked at Nick Fury again. There is another most important piece of information. The bioterrorists led by Umbrella Corporation founder Oswell Spencer have all left Romania and are suspected to have entered the country via a transnational trade fleet. The situation in Raccoon City is likely related to them. What? They all left Romania? Nick Fury frowned and his face darkened. Although the biochemical crisis incident is not a high-difficulty incident among the various incidents faced by the Joint Investigation Bureau. However, it is this type of low-difficulty event that is most likely to cause civilian casualties. Just like the number of people who die in car accidents every year is far greater than the number of people who die from murder. Wait a minute, are you talking about the remnants of the Umbrella hiding in Eastern Europe? What happened? Li Chengfeng finally found an opportunity to speak. Li Chengfeng looked around and then looked at Amanda Waller. Tell me what happened in detail. Amanda Waller frowned. Li Chengfeng's tone was very casual, but when she thought that Li Chengfeng was a person with super abilities whom she could not understand at all, she could only suppress her anger. But in her heart, she began to think about it. If the Sky Eye Club could also get such a team. After listening to Amanda Waller's story, Li Chengfeng raised his hand without hesitation, and a green light of will flashed, and it materialized into a communicator. Ahem, this is Li Chengfeng calling Dr. Doom. This is Li Chengfeng calling Dr. Doom. If you hear me, please reply. Afterwards, Li Chengfeng's green light ring flickered several times, and then a low voice came from the communicator. Dr. Doom received. Li, you can actually call me Victor. Okay Victor, how are you doing lately? How is the governance of the country? How many people are there in your family? How many acres of land per person? How many cows are there in the land? Li, just tell me what's going on. The captain of the famous star team couldn't have contacted me just to reminisce, right? Ahaha, the relationship between us two brothers. By the way, did those biochemical lunatics who have been living next door to you run away? Them? That's right. The so-called mother goddess Miranda came to say goodbye to me and expressed her unbreakable friendship with Latveria. Then I sent them away on the cruise ship. Oh, and they also took away something called Fungus Master. Everyone in the operations meeting room looked at Li Chengfeng with an expression that said, this is related to you again. Li Chengfeng chuckled, left a message, I'll discuss something with you when I have time, and then hung up the phone. The Green Lantern ring has this effect. Phil Coulson lowered his voice and said to Li Chengfeng, why don't you give it a try? I think I might have the ability to become a Green Lantern. Give it up. It's been more than 2 years since you broke up with your ex. You've been running to the company toilet to be alone when you think of your ex-girlfriend. You'd better give up on this idea. After squeezing Phil Coulson, Li Chengfeng coughed a few times in a pretentious manner and then walked to the long table. Well, it seems that the current situation is completely clear. It seems that the new virus that appeared in Raccoon City this time is related to this fungus owner. When Li Chengfeng first heard Amanda Waller's description, his first reaction was that it was the family of Evelyn and the protagonist's wife in Resident Evil 7. The infection from the E-mold caused mutations, and this situation arose because Evelyn was extremely eager for affection and family. But that was only the effect of the E-mold spread by Evelyn personally, not the gift spread by the mother goddess Miranda in the village. The current E-mold has obviously mutated compared to the original, and Evelyn alone cannot infect the entire Raccoon City. You should have heard what Dr. Doom mentioned just now. This is the source of the E-mold, a super strain with self-awareness. Spencer and his team took this thing away. It should be in Raccoon City now. But the good news is that as long as the E-mold is not deeply infected and completely transformed into a fungus beast, it can be cured. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he prepared to open the portal and lead the team members to set off. This should be done sooner rather than later. But at this critical moment, a hot black-haired beauty rushed in rashly. Reporting to Director Nick Fury. New situation has occurred outside Raccoon City. Li Chengfeng looked up and saw that the person coming was Max. What's going on? Well, you may not believe it. Max steadied himself and said in a joking tone, although the Sky Eye Society blocked Raccoon City, Guess what? 2 military jeeps broke in by force. Based on drones, satellites and surveillance along the way, the identities of several people in the car were confirmed. They are System Engineer Ethan Winters, BSAA Commander Chris Redfield, BSAA Special Response Team Leader Jill Valentine, CIA Agent Leon S. Kennedy, Anti-Biochemical Virus Expert Rebecca Chambers, International Humanitarian Aid Organization Claire Redfield, and an FBI Reserve Agent Shirley Platinum. When Li Chengfeng heard this, his eyes turned dark immediately. Bridge bean sack? What the hell are these protagonists trying to do? Why did they suddenly launch a collective charge? Especially Shirley Platinum, how come she is still a reserve agent of the FBI? Li Chengfeng couldn't help but look at Nick Fury. This damn Lolita control. It's none of my business. I don't have to choose every candidate agent recruited by the FBI. Nick Fury felt Li Chengfeng's look of rubbish. Now the point is, what on earth are these people going to do? You're asking even though you already know the answer. You know what the BSAA does, don't you? It specializes in handling biological and chemical incidents, okay? Several major countries have the FBI to handle them, but other countries around the world rely on the BSAA. But this guy rushed in with just a few people. Was he planning to commit suicide? Li Chengfeng raised his eyebrows. Suicide? They dare to let the vehicle killer bite your brother into the car, what else can't they do? However, if these talented people rely on themselves alone, it will be difficult for them to clear this hell mode Raccoon City. Ding! The mission New Raccoon City incident has been released. Mission introduction. The great old god of the earth and the captain of the star team, Raccoon City has once again fallen into a biochemical crisis after 7 years, and a group of righteous people have entered Raccoon City in an attempt to eliminate this crisis. You need to completely purify the entire Raccoon City while ensuring their safety, because all this is for love. Chapter 145. Raccoon City is actually a good place to live, with a beautiful environment, fresh air, and no heavy industry. Definitely, provided you can accept that this place has suffered the worst biohazard incident in history. In fact, there are indeed many people who don't care about this matter. Even in America, many people believe that the biochemical crisis does not actually exist, but is a conspiracy of the federal government and a means of controlling the people. At least that's what the Rising Tide conspiracy theory says. That's right, it was the hacker organization that Sky belonged to at the beginning, but under the severe crackdown by the FBI, the hackers in the Rising Tide organization who had no criminal records were recruited by the FBI, while those who used hacking skills to commit murder and robbery were sent to prison as they wished. Today's Rising Tide organization is a conspiracy theory marketing account. Definitely these are not the main reasons. The most important thing is actually, land prices, housing prices, and commodity prices are all low enough. These are all the preferential policies of the American government towards Raccoon City. With this, they have earned enough fame and votes from the relatives of the victims of Raccoon City. Against this background, although Raccoon City has not truly recovered to its previous level of over 100,000 people, it still has a population of 40,000 to 50,000 people. The city that used to be peaceful now. It's completely changed. Longing for family, longing for love. All the originally rational humans were transformed into beasts that followed their desires at night. Young men and women were biting each other, blood and flesh were flying everywhere, and they were not even aware of biting off each other's tongues. It doesn't matter, they will all be back to normal the next day. The couple who lost their son tied up the young and strong boys into their home and cooked them a good meal. The ingredients were unknown but very fresh. It doesn't matter, they will all be back to normal the next day. Everyone is sinking in such a hell without knowing it, allowing their desires to expand without limits. It doesn't matter, they will be back to normal the next day. Except for the purple ripples in their eyes. On a street outside Raccoon City, a portal suddenly opened. Li Chengfeng led all the team members on standby into Raccoon City. I'll emphasize again that the focus of this mission is to find those reckless intruders and ensure their safety. Conventional lethal force is allowed against the infected. So Harley, there's a reason why I didn't let you bring those light pulse blasters and individual heat ray rifles on the Airbus. Light pulse blaster? Heat ray rifle. Phil Coulson looked at Li Chengfeng in confusion. Aren't these all experimental products produced by Sandbox? Where did you get them from? In the past, Nick Fury insisted that I, an old man, should go on a mission with me, so he placed a group of them on the Kaze. Li, are we good brothers? If you, a middle-aged man with a bald forehead, have the nerve to call me a 25-year-old young man, I have no problem with that. After you go back, give me some of these weapons. With the configuration of your team, these are completely useless. They are not worth it for small things, and they are useless for big things. Your abacus beads are about to jump on my face. But when have you ever seen me spit out what I put in my mouth? Even Thor's father Odin couldn't do it. Li Chengfeng smiled confidently, but we can ask Nick Fury for another batch. After the two team leaders decided on a cooperative plan to cheat the black braised egg, they finally got back on track. Although it was night, everything could be seen clearly under the bright street lights. Not far away, a military jeep was burning. Sure enough, when Li Chengfeng, Phil Coulson and their men approached, they discovered that this was one of the two jeeps that broke through the blockade and entered Raccoon City. The corners of Li Chengfeng's mouth twitched. He was 100% sure that this was definitely the car Leon was riding in. Holy crap! This vehicle killer feature is really effective. TMD, after completing this mission, if I draw the reward, I won't get something like this, right? Thinking of this, Li Chengfeng couldn't help but feel conflicted. This group of people are good at both teammates and vehicles. Is that good? This jeep should be the intruder vehicle, right? That's right, Phil Coulson, but we didn't find another jeep. Wang Ada walked around the jeep twice, then said, after all, this is a jeep, not a troop carrier. It's too difficult to fit 7 or 8 people, not to mention that they brought a lot of weapons and equipment. So they probably split up. You mean, one team sneaks in from the periphery on foot, and the other team goes directly into the central area of the city. From what I know about Leon S. Kennedy and Claire, they will do that. Li Chengfeng was listening to Ada Wang's analysis, and the face with the side-parted hair kept popping up in his mind for unknown reasons. Li Chengfeng saw it clearly, especially the look in King Ada's eyes when he mentioned them. It's interesting. Well, Ada, what happened between you, Leon, and Claire? Oh, Li, are you jealous? Stop it, I'm not stupid. That look you just gave me is clearly the look a little girl would give when she mentions a fun toy she once played with. After 7 years, I set foot on the land of Raccoon City again. I can't help but think of that female devil who plays with people's hearts. Leon S. Kennedy said so. In the underground sewers of Raccoon City, Leon, Claire, and Shirley Platinum were dressed in military combat uniforms, equipped with long and short weapons and ammunition, and moved forward with the help of tactical flashlights in their hands. The speed was not slow, but the footsteps were kept as quiet as possible. Although I don't know if there is any danger in the underground sewers, it's always better to be careful. After hearing what Leon said, Claire couldn't help but let her thoughts drift back to 7 years ago. Then I felt a chill all over my body. That's right, that girl called Ada Wang, I will never forget her in my life. Although Shirley Platinum experienced the Raccoon City incident with the two of them 7 years ago, Shirley Platinum was only 12 years old at that time, and she was imprisoned by the perverted police chief most of the time. So we don't know what happened between them and the female devil they were talking about. But she was very familiar with the name Ada Wang. That's the adjutant of the FBI's Star Squad. He is the idol of countless female agents. She is definitely no exception. But in the eyes of Leon and Claire, who are like parents and brothers and sisters-in-law to him, his idol is actually a female devil? And judging from the tone, it's definitely not a good thing. Just when he was about to say a few words for his idol, Lion, who was marching in the front, suddenly made a tactical gesture to stop. There is something ahead. Chapter 146. The three men immediately held their breath, raised their HK-416 assault rifles, and aimed at the corner ahead. Then, Kara. The sound of a bolt being pulled out was heard ahead, and it was particularly clear in this silent underground sewer. Grenade. Take cover. After saying that, he immediately ran to the corner behind. But the other party had no intention of letting them go. He directly released the safety lever in his hand and threw it into the air after a delay of 1 second. It bounced onto the dome of the underground sewer and was catapulted in front of the three people. At this moment, the flash bomb just exploded. A bright light came on, bright enough to temporarily blind a person. Even the battle-hardened Leon didn't have time to completely avoid it. He only had time to push Claire and Shirley away, but he was still slightly affected. If you are struck by a flash at close range without protection, it will take at least a day or two for your visual system to fully return to normal. Now it takes about 10 seconds. Damn it! It's a flash bomb. Claire. Shirley. How are you guys? Pfft. Before Leon could finish his words of subconscious care for the two of them, he was forcibly pressed onto the cold ground of the underground sewer. Hey, Leon S. Kennedy, we meet again. Shit. Why are you the devil again? Leon S. Kennedy's hair is almost in a mess at this moment. So what if it's me? You guys came back to Raccoon City in a group this time. Do you think you can handle this incident by yourselves? There is no comment on this matter. You woman who works for Umbrella. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Then you better hurry up, you fake FBI. I'm definitely not from the FBI. Ada Wong turned Leon over and placed her FBI ID in front of him, who had almost regained his vision. But I'm now a level 4 elite agent at the America's headquarters. After the quarterly headquarters reconciliation, I estimate that I will skip the original level 5 agent and be promoted directly to level 6 based on the completion of the tasks during this period. Leon struggled to sit up, coughed a few times and then continued, who knows where you got this fake ID from? No, Leon, she is indeed a level 4 agent of the FBI. I can guarantee that. Shirley, who was pushed away by Leon, hurriedly stepped forward and saluted Ada Wong, then said, FBI Reserve Agent Shirley Bai-jin reports to you, sir. King Ada looked up at the young girl with short platinum hair. 7 years ago, she had caught a glimpse of this girl from afar, but at that time Shirley Platinum was just a weak little girl of 12 years old, which was completely different from the girl in front of her with a determined look in her eyes. Ada Wong, you have turned into an FBI agent now. Claire was a little bit unbelievable. Judging from the final results, the evil woman was indeed helping her and Leon and did not regard them as a burden at all. But they were not considered human beings. Claire, why do you and Leon sound so resentful when you see me? King Ada stepped forward and lifted Claire's chin with Li Chengfeng's magnum. In fact, it's not too much for you two to call me teacher, right? When Leon and Claire heard the word teacher, they were already in tears. Sound the alarm to attract zombies and let them practice shooting. She moved the tyrant in front of them in a coquettish way to let them build up their courage. The most outrageous thing is that after encountering William Platinum who was infected with the G virus, he asked them to use a steel pipe to poke the big eye bubble on his shoulder. Which good person would teach like this? However, during these 7 years, the two people cursed Ada Wong 10,000 times in their hearts, but they had to admit that in that urgent and dangerous situation at that time, she did allow them to gain the ability to protect themselves and even solve the problem in the fastest time. Especially Claire, who was originally just a motorcycle girl. After nearly 2 days of devilish training, she evolved into an expert in headshots. Human potential. It's really amazing. Can you please stop reminiscing about the past? The most reliable person is the 19-year-old Shirley Platinum. Since Agent Ada Wong is here, it means that the star team has been dispatched. And the star team's dispatch means, this matter seems to be a bit big. The little girl is right. You are in big trouble this time. Follow me. Ada Wong put away his gun, turned around and went back the same way. He continued as he walked, every one of you is basically someone with an official identity. You are either high-ranking officials of the BSAA, or direct agents of the American government, and there are even reserve agents of the FBI. What on earth is wrong with your brains that you would choose to force your way through the blockade of the Sky Eye Society and enter Raccoon City? This is a bit of a long story. Leon sighed, and just as he was about to start explaining, he came to the corner where King Ada appeared. I saw dozens of fungus beasts piled here motionless, and several people in strange uniforms were standing here. Maybe this is what they call a vigilante? Or a superhero? Fortunately, there were still 2 people dressed normally, a bald middle-aged man in a suit, and a Republican in a black combat uniform. The Republican raised his head and smiled kindly and benevolently. Since it's a long story, just make it short. Shirley Platinum excitedly poked Leon's lower back, then whispered, this is the captain of the star team, FBI Level 7 Agent Li Chengfeng. An absolute authority on supernatural events. So young, okay, sir, here's the thing. Not to mention that the guys in front of him were obviously very powerful. The authority of a level 7 FBI agent alone was much higher than that of a CIA agent like him. There is nothing wrong with calling him sir. His level is high enough to command himself across agencies, and his leader, even the president, cannot find fault with him. So Lion was very single and chose to tell the truth. We all started investigating biological and chemical incidents separately, but in the end, the different incidents we handled all pointed to the same place, a village in Romania. But before we could get there, they entered America via a cruise ship from Latvia. Then, when we were analyzing intelligence together, we met a man named Ethan Winters. He was an acquaintance of Chris, and he asked us save his wife and children from those biochemical lunatics. But the Sky Eye has already notified all organizations of the ban on the blockade of Raccoon City. There's no other way. We can only do it ourselves. Chapter 147. Stop. I'm old and my hearing isn't very good. What you just said was that Ethan Winters had a child. Are you here to rescue the child? In fact, we just follow the trend. At the moment, Leon no longer felt nervous. After all, he had been a government agent for many years. Our original goal was to eliminate the remnants of these protective umbrellas. After saying that, Leon walked forward, looked at the fungus beasts of various shapes, then folded his hands and muttered something. Although this thing is not as bloody as zombies and lickers, it is even more twisted than them. This thing is called e-mold. The infected will gradually be assimilated into fungus beasts of different forms. Unless all the e-mold in the fungus beasts are removed or burned to ashes, they will still recover. Li Chengfeng patted Lion's shoulder with a sigh in his tone. These fungus beasts were the first group of Raccoon City residents to be infected. Their bodies had been completely mutated and there was no way to save them. And Li Chengfeng actually felt a strong purple light of love from the fungus beasts that were mutated from these molds. But this purple light was not born from the souls of the fungus beasts, but from their blood. That's the flowing mold. In Li Chengfeng's eyes, these grey-white fungus beasts all had blood vessels and nerves that glowed purple. Even though Li Chengfeng has mastered the power of the three emotional spectra, this is the first time he has seen such a situation. This is even more absurd than the original. By the way, didn't you enter Raccoon City with the people in another car? Where are the others? Leon's breathing stagnated, and he said a little depressed, we were originally planning to act separately, but I crashed my car while trying to avoid a wild boar that suddenly ran onto the street. So we simply headed forward from where the jeep crashed. As for them, they should be planning to go directly to the Raccoon City Police Department first. The reason we entered the underground sewer is because it leads to the Raccoon City Police Department, and we originally agreed to meet there. Have you never noticed that any vehicle you take will end badly? Li Chengfeng was too exhausted to complain. This law-level bad luck was really weird. If I were your leader, I would never let you board an aircraft carrier or battleship in my life. Leon was asked by Li Chengfeng's words. He couldn't help but question himself. Could it be that he really is an unlucky vehicle killer? From the police cars and helicopters in Raccoon City, to the jeeps and armed helicopters in Spain, and then to the jeeps this time. It seems that no one is spared. Moreover, my favorite motorcycle in daily life needs a minor repair every 3 days and a major repair every 5 days, and it has to be replaced with a new one during the holidays. Most of my salary is spent on this. The more he thought about it, the more Leon felt that he had discovered the truth. But don't be too self-deprecating. You are only good at defeating vehicles, and there is also a god who can defeat teammates. As soon as Li Chengfeng finished complaining, he slapped himself on the forehead. Yes. There is also Chris who is good at beating his teammates. Alright, without further ado, let's hurry up and head to the Raccoon City Police Department from the underground sewers. In addition to solving the biochemical incident, my other mission this time is to prevent you guys from dying here. The former Umbrella Corporation underground facility. This place, which had been abandoned for 7 years, has now been completely transformed. Oswell Spencer was sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed by a man in a black priest robe with 10 pairs of wings on his back and a halo similar to that of a god growing on his spine, and he came to the huge amounts of observation windows. Teacher, every time I see you I feel so magical. I am already very old, but you are no different from the past. Spencer, all of this is a gift from the fungus master. Such a primitive mold is actually more powerful and effective than the virus that the Umbrella Corporation has been researching and deriving for many years using advanced technology. It seems that I should have stayed with my teacher and continued to study the master of the fungus. The woman pushing Spencer's wheelchair is called teacher by him. That is Miranda, the mother goddess who currently possesses the highest authority among fungi and can manipulate all those infected by mold. This woman, who has lived for more than 100 years relying on the fungus master but whose appearance remains unchanged, has even dealt with Dr. Doom due to geopolitical issues. Compared to the viruses in the major Resident Evil series, E-mold is more ancient and has a more fantasy style. In order to increase the infection ability of E-mold, the goddess Miranda created a parasite called gift based on E-mold. Those who accept the gift will gain some special power through mutation. As the person with the highest authority chosen by the Lord of Fungi, the mother goddess Miranda herself can transform into the appearance of another person by assimilating his or her DNA. It was under these circumstances that Ethan Winters lived with the mother goddess Miranda for a week. The woman's purpose was to successfully kidnap Ethan Winters' daughter. Because his daughter is the best vessel for the mother goddess Miranda to resurrect her daughter Eva. Teacher, I have sent out the 4 nobles to deal with those old friends who broke into Raccoon City. After Spencer finished speaking, he and the mother goddess Miranda looked down from the high observation window. The master of fungi that originally existed deep in the cave was now lying at the bottom of the facility, constantly producing E-mold. But there is a huge difference between this mushroom owner and the one he met that year. If the original host is a huge amounts of black fungus. So now the mushroom master looks more like a purple-colored creature with a purple glow. Cocoon. Chapter 148. Raccoon City Police Department. The West Office is normal. The East Office is normal. The Archives Room and the Command Room are normal. The Press Room and Lounge are normal. Okay, let's meet in the lobby. Soon, 4 people gathered in the center of the lobby on the first floor of the police station. It was Ethan, Chris, Jill, and Rebecca who were also fully armed. After working in the field of bioterrorism for so many years, this is the first time I've encountered a situation without zombies and lickers. Jill shook her blonde hair, which could no longer return to its original color, and her tone was filled with unprecedented curiosity. She and Chris were chasing Weskier a few years ago, and they both died and fell off a cliff. But he was taken away by Weskier and transformed by the virus. However, because the T-virus mutated in his body, he gained powerful strength and blonde hair. It was not until Weskier died inexplicably in Westchester County, America some time ago that she was rescued by the BSAA. Although she had endured many inhuman tortures and the BSAA's mental evaluation team believed that she should continue to rest, she still forced herself to follow Chris here. This was the beginning of her nightmare. She wanted to personally eliminate the source of the nightmare. And her reason for convincing Chris was simple. Now she is the most powerful person in the entire BSAA, no doubt about it. Jill, who has transformed the powers of multiple viruses, is now a human-shaped tyrant. She can probably destroy the tracker who chased her like a dog with her bare hands now. So, you really have been resting for a long time. Rebecca patted Jill's shoulder. I really envy your hair color now. If I want to dye it like this, I'll probably have to bleach it until it's as dry as straw. If I had a choice, I still prefer the original look. Jill shrugged and looked at Ethan Winters, who still had a sad face. Ethan, as a system engineer of the BSAA, we are old acquaintances. Just relax. We will definitely be able to rescue Mia and Rose. Thank you for your kind words. Ethan forced a smile. How long do we have to wait here? Leon and the others will come directly from the underground sewer. If there is no obstruction, they should be able to arrive soon. Chris shook the communicator in his hand, which had turned into a brick. The communicator is out of order. I think there is something fishy going on with Umbrella this time. As expected, they have teamed up with those guys in the village. They also saw many fungus beasts along the way. Although it wasn't very strong, the unique distortion still left a deep impression on Chris. Did you encounter this kind of thing at the baker's 3 years ago? Yes, fungus beasts, the product of E-mold. Ethan shook his head. But we have received intelligence that these fungus beasts and the infected people who have not yet transformed into fungus beasts, no matter how badly they are injured, will recover as before the next day. I have never heard of this. Ethan was very sure that there was definitely something wrong with the fungus beast this time. The biggest problem in the nightmare night I experienced at the baker's house was actually the lack of firepower. Whether it was the fungus beast or his father-in-law Jack Baker, they were just chasing him when he was unarmed. Not killed yet. If he had a complete set of standard Delta Force individual equipment at that time, how could he have looked so miserable? When Ethan mentioned the fungus beast, Chris's eyes turned complicated. Because after BSAA rescued Ethan, they had already conducted a comprehensive examination and research on him. The conclusion is, Ethan is dead. Now he is just a humanoid fungus beast born from Ethan's corpse, possessing all of Ethan's memories and emotions. Only he, Rebecca, and Barry Burton, who was in charge of the BSAA and was in charge of the overall situation on his behalf, knew about this. Even Jill was unaware of the situation. At the moment, Rebecca also had a look of regret and pity in her eyes and let out a silent sigh. But in such a huge police station, at the moment, several footsteps were suddenly heard. Okay, that's enough of your reminiscing about the past. From now on, you just need to act like a group of silent lambs and wait for your necks to be slaughtered. A lady's voice full of charm and cruelty came from the passage at the end of the hall. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a noble lady in a simple long dress bending down and passing through the 2-meter-long door edge. And when she straightened up, what was more eye-catching than her beautiful face was her height of nearly 3 meters. Hey, whether it's the tyrant I met in the mansion or the goddess of vengeance I met, their heights are not this outrageous, right? Jill stood up from the table in shock, then looked at herself subconsciously. Exaggerate. Akina Dimitrescu can be confirmed to be one of the 4 nobles under Mother Goddess Miranda. What about us? What followed was a swarm of flies, which then split into 3 parts and gradually condensed into 3 girls who were as pale but beautiful as Mrs. Dimitrescu. Jill looked down again and straightened her back proudly. How can a girl always lose? Chapter 149. Although Jill at the moment successfully gained a morale boost, Chris and Ethan showed an indescribable look. Just by looking at her body shape, you can tell that this noble lady is much more powerful than those tyrants. And most importantly, the intelligence of various tyrants is actually not very high, but the one in front of him obviously possesses complete human intelligence. If the tyrants were just biological weapons, then Mrs. Dimitrescu was a truly strengthening human being. I am ordered by the Mother Goddess Miranda to come and exterminate all of you, the descendants of the exiles. Mrs. Dimitrescu's words still carried the arrogance of the old European aristocracy. In their eyes, America was nothing more than a place of exile. Most of the pioneers in America at that time were people who could not make it in their hometowns. Even though America is now one of the most powerful countries in the world, it will not change their minds. At best, the exiles became nouveau riche. Come on, daughters, capture them all for me. Mrs. Dimitrescu licked her sexy, unusually scarlet lips. I want to taste their blood one by one, especially Ethan Winters. Yes, mother. The 3 beautiful girls formed by mimicking flies once again transformed into 3 streams of flies and rushed towards the 4 people. Chris and others immediately raised their rifles and started firing forward. But for the swarm of flies, superficial. Damn it. I can't hit it. Jill launched a fierce whip kick at the girl who had half of her body condensed in front of him, but it seemed to have missed the target and he almost fell out. What's the use of having great strength? If you can't hit the target, it's the same as having nothing. Chris, Jill, and Rebecca were at least once members of the STARS team. Even if they can't find a way to fight the enemy for a while, they won't reveal any flaws. But the weakest Ethan Winters was already confused and was captured by one of the fly girls and brought to Mrs. Dimitrescu. Mrs. Dimitrescu easily grasped Ethan with one hand and held him in front of her. Ah! Damn it! What are you doing? You monsters! Definitely, I'm going to taste your saltiness. The fly girl said, and the curved sickle in her hand directly cut his wrist. Your destiny is to become your mother's blood food. Thank you for your hard work, my daughter. Mrs. Dimitrescu smiled elegantly at the fly girl, then took Ethan's cut hand with her other hand and pressed her sexy red lips against the bleeding wound. As her throat began to swallow, Mrs. Dimitrescu's expression became strange. Your blood isn't fresh anymore. And you still call us monsters. When Jill saw his civilian colleague being sucked blood, he became even more anxious. He simply lifted up a table and waved away all the flies around it. He took advantage of this opportunity to rush directly towards Mrs. Dimitrescu. I can't hit your daughter, but I can always hit you, right? Jill's superhuman speed surprised Mrs. Dimitrescu. She had no choice but to throw Ethan away, and then sharp and slender claws instantly grew out of the 10 fingers of her hands. What the hell? There's a weapon hidden in your hand, right? Jill twisted her body to avoid the fierce claw attack, and deep claw marks instantly appeared on the ground and walls. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Jill kicked the lady in the chest, forcing her to take a few steps back. But at the same time, Mrs. Dimitrescu grabbed Jill's slender legs with her backhand and threw him away. Jill. Suddenly, a voice that Jill was very familiar with sounded. It's that little girl Claire. She had already tensed all her muscles, preparing for a hard collision with the stone wall. But the next moment, she was caught in midair by something soft. Turning around, I found that it was a baseball glove formed by green light. The baseball glove dropped her to the ground and then dissipated. At the same time, several crimson energies passed by the crowd, and the three annoying fly girls were instantly trapped in midair, unable to move. Chris and Rebecca only had time to look in Claire's direction at this time, only to find that there were a few unfamiliar people around Claire. "Thanks for your help. We are from the BSAA, and we are here to solve the biological incident in Raccoon City." Chris said so. But the Republican man in the lead seemed not to see him and walked straight ahead. The bald middle-aged man in a black suit next to him smiled at him in a friendly manner, then raised his FBI ID and said, "What a coincidence. We are here to solve the problem as well, but we are from the FBI. We will communicate with you later about the 7 of you forcing your way into Raccoon City." Chris's expression froze instantly. Got caught. Li Chengfeng was not very interested in the reactions of Chris and others. Instead, he looked eagerly at the pale and beautiful lady not far away. "My beautiful lady, someone reported you for possessing controlled knives and large-scale lethal weapons. Please disarm all your weapons so I can check them. Put your hair up, by the way. Put your hair up." Chapter 150. Spencer, when you brought Umbrella Corporation to me, I was a little confused. Mother Goddess Miranda stood beside the disciple she had taught so carefully. "Although the progenitor virus you are studying has a completely different evolutionary path from the bacteria master, I am very pleased that you have developed to this point on your own. Although the Mother Goddess Miranda has obtained the memories and abilities of thousands of fungus masters, and although there are some influences, Miranda's own personality is still dominant in general. As for Spencer, she was her former student. Although she never said it explicitly, Mother Goddess Miranda also regarded him as her own child. Because during the initial period of research on the fungus, young Spencer filled the position of children, allowing her turbulent and morbid maternal love to have an outlet. On the contrary, the 4 nobles who were given the gift to call her mother were nothing more than defective products and slaves in her eyes. This is why the Mother Goddess Miranda directly gave Spencer the authority of the master of the fungus second only to herself. But I failed at the beginning and could only serve as a dog for the organization called Hydra. Spencer shook his head, then I thought I could make a comeback with Hydra, but Hydra was completely crippled. I had no choice but to transfer all the remaining forces to Romania. There is a limit to human power. Not everyone can be the ruler of Latveria. Let's not talk about this, teacher. Spencer shook his head. Do you need me to do anything to resurrect Eva? The container has been obtained. Once the 4 nobles have dealt with the invaders, we can perform the crystallization surgery on the baby named Ross. When talking about the resurrection of Eva, even the Mother Goddess Miranda, who had not shown any emotional fluctuations for a long time, couldn't help but show joy. But can the 4 nobles really do it? Spencer asked a fatal question. The various variants of the progenitor virus were destroyed by those people. Especially Chris and Leon, the 2 most important nodes of Umbrella Corporation, the Mansion and Raccoon City, the T virus and the G virus were solved by the 2 of them. If I had to say who I hate, I definitely hate these 2 the most. But what he is most worried about now is not those 2 bastards Chris and Leon. It was the America headquarters that has been in the limelight recently. Even an organization as large and ancient as Hydra was dismembered by it until only its debris remained. I wonder if the American General Administration has noticed their current actions? Spencer's old heart couldn't help but beat a little faster at this thought. Are you the legendary 8-foot-tall, Mrs. Dimitrescu? Humph. Man. You can kill me or chop me up as you please. But I am a noble count from Romania, and I have the right to demand a dignified death. Mrs. Dimitrescu was tied into the shape of a tortoise shell by a rope formed by the green light of wool, but the shame of this action had already been suppressed by the shock in her heart. After being enhanced by the gift, his physical strength is definitely the strongest among the 4 nobles. But the man in front of him still easily caught his attack. The claws that grew on her hands were sharp enough to cut through rocks, but they could not hurt the man at all. Instead, he seemed to just throw a punch and sent his body flying. What a terrifying power this is! She couldn't resist. If Li Chengfeng knew what this beautiful, giant mature woman was thinking, he would definitely laugh at her without any hesitation. Romanian nobility? Isn't that the country bumpkin from an Eastern European village? Don't be fooled by her impressive height and chest circumference. There are many people in the FBI Academy who can easily surpass her in strength. And that's just talking about strength. If the conditions were relaxed to defeat her or even kill her, the number would increase significantly. Biological viruses are still inferior. Dear Mrs. Dimitrescu, you and your 3 daughters may look beautiful, but in reality, you are nothing but a stinking lump of meat and flies that think they are human. Li Chengfeng looked up at Mrs. Dimitrescu, who was kneeling on the ground, his smile more villain-like than a villain's. Ever since you were transformed by the E-mold, I no longer regard you as human beings. And since they are not human, human rights, naturally no longer exist. Mrs. Dimitrescu looked at Li Chengfeng's villain smile, and then thought of his powerful strength. She couldn't help but shudder. Even the clothes were wet. Li Chengfeng certainly didn't mean to scare her. Although he was not a cruel man, he did not treat Mrs. Dimitrescu as a human being. Next, I will send you and your daughters to the FBI's research institute. Using your blood and E. coli, we will develop a vaccine against E. coli. You won't be able to escape blood draws and biopsies, but don't worry, we won't taste your saltiness. So, welcome to America. My precious little baby. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.